Introduction asterisk. Blossoms bloom without bearing fruit, merely awaiting their demise. Love, unfulfilled, only welcomes the sorrow of passion. On that day, beneath the setting sun, he beheld her enchanting silhouette for the first time. On that very same day, he witnessed, once more under the golden rays, her retreating figure for the last time. He declared, "In the next life, I shall surely marry you." She replied, "In the next life, I shall undoubtedly continue to love you." Yet, does the next life truly exist? As he felt her hand slip away, he realized that there was no longer a beautiful sunset in this world. Chapter 1. The Art of Concealing Wealth. Yucheng, a city where life is simpler than mere survival, is located in the central northern region of our homeland, along the mid-lower reaches of the Yangtze River. A millennium ago, it was a coveted battleground, its flat terrain laid bare before the heroes of various factions. Whoever possessed it had a formidable foundation for survival. Over time, particularly since the advent of reform and opening up, coastal cities have drawn attention, leading to the gradual neglect of the Central Plains, relegating Yucheng to the status of a fifth-tier city. However, this has fostered a lifestyle that is slow-paced and comfortable, rendering existence here particularly uncomplicated. A simple life does not equate to a fulfilling one. Humanity harbors an inherent desire for knowledge, especially after witnessing the lifestyles and amenities of prosperous cities depicted in films and television. The inhabitants of Yucheng have gradually adopted the language, customs, and lifestyles of these affluent regions as trends, aspiring to lead the fashion. Different age groups naturally embody different fashions. For Lin Ye's generation, it was the prime age when the rebellious youth depicted in films was at its zenith. Forming cliques, engaging in brawls, robbing, and teasing female classmates were all part of the norm. Ironically, Lin Ye, a naive and well-behaved boy, did not identify himself with the strong. Instead, he deeply resonated with the foolishness of the weak portrayed in the films. Consequently, he concealed the red envelopes filled with his New Year's money beneath the insoles of his shoes. Thus, the following scene unfolded. "I am Lin, named Hua. Don't call me to fight, just tell me what to do." It must be said that Lin Ye was quite clever. After all, it was about money. As long as he was not met with a fist, he could navigate the situation. Problems that could be solved with money were not problems at all. If these individuals could willingly relinquish their funds, what could they do? With 6 of them, how could they possibly escape? With a loud thud, a book struck one of the heads. "Hey guys, this kid can take a beating, so give it to him hard. You think he could be unruly? Huh? Fight back, Dodge." The speaker was a scoundrel named Daozi, an unemployed punk who roamed various campuses, targeting the weak and vulnerable. Of course, weak referred not to the elderly but to the likes of Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan, both academically gifted and seemingly docile. Yet, Daozi cared not whether one was top of the class. If they appeared easy to bully, they were fair game. At that moment, Zhang Xiaoxian, a towering figure at 1.83 meters, found himself being bullied, for he was meek in the crowd, rarely speaking loudly, and instead devoted to his studies, ultimately leading to his victimization. As Daozi finished his command, Lin Ye glanced back in alarm, noticing the other 3 merely standing by, arms crossed, watching instead of joining the fray, as Daozi had instructed. He quickly grasped the dynamics. Not all 6 were under Daozi's command. He was merely the ostensible leader. In front of Lin Ye stood another small-time thug. When Lin Ye turned to look at him, the thug chuckled. "Oh, this kid can even sing nursery rhymes. Impressive. Send me another one." After a moment, he feigned seriousness and shouted, "Make it bold and grand. Sing louder." Lin Ye, startled by the shout, stammered, "Arise, you who refuse to be slaves. Let us—" "Ouch, ouch. Big brother, don't hit, don't hit. Shut up with the national anthem, you brat. What do you mean, arise? Do you dare to resist?" The thug raised the book and struck Lin Ye on the head, cursing him as he did so. "Dogzy, get on with the business. Stop playing around." Daozi, growing impatient, thought to himself that this was supposed to be a simple mugging, not a political statement. Dogzy, still laughing, replied, "Daozi, this guy is quite amusing. He talks in such a funny way." Daozi turned and kicked Dogzy, reprimanding him sternly. "Amusing? Go home and amuse your sister. Why are you out here? Are you still going to eat tonight?" The other 3 thugs laughed heartily, neither stepping in to stop nor assist, simply watching and intimidating Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxian. They knew that should either of the 2 make any sudden movements, they would pounce without hesitation. There was another individual standing aside, not partaking in the group, who merely observed the scene with a cold smirk, neither intervening nor speaking up. This person was Wang Shi, nicknamed Skinny Monkey, a frail figure from Class A to the first year at Xinguang High School, and the only student present besides Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan. He was infamous, having established a reputation in school for collaborating with outsiders to bully his own classmates, often receiving a share of the spoils afterward, thus relishing in such mischief. After receiving a kick from Daozi, Daozi grew angry, redirecting his frustration towards Lin Ye. He swiftly kicked Lin Ye, cursing, "Be honest, it's all your fault I'm in this mess." After a pause, he added, "Lie flat against the wall, hands on the wall, stand properly." Lin Ye, feeling wrong, complied, covering his backside. Zhang Xiaoxuan followed suit, having offered a token resistance only to receive a punch from Daozi, now also lying obediently against the wall. Both understood this was a search for valuables. One might wonder what they were searching for. Naturally, it was money. These petty thugs, lacking any legitimate source of income and parental guidance, spent money on smoking, drinking, and socializing. They specifically targeted weak high school students, as money came easily and quickly, especially with the assistance of the skinny monkey keeping watch in school. It was nearly impossible to go empty-handed. If the robbery yielded little and posed no threat to their safety, newly enrolled high school students often chose to endure in silence, as discussing the incident was mostly futile. If they told their parents, they would only offer temporary solutions. If they reported it to teachers, it was unthinkable. Regardless of whom they confided in, there were moments of vulnerability. In this era, most high school students received a few days or even a week's allowance from their parents. If they lost a bit, they would simply consider themselves unfortunate. Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan lay against the wall, enduring the process of being searched. "Daozi, nothing here." Daozi turned to Daozi, reporting. Daozi, who had been focused on lighting a cigarette, froze at this revelation, the cigarette forgotten between his fingers. "Impossible. Get out of the way. I'll do it. You're useless." Daozi, feeling disgruntled, retreated to the side after receiving 2 scoldings that day, casting a resentful glance at Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan. Daozi approached them, feeling them up, but the deeper he searched, the more his expression soured, until he reached their pant legs and still found nothing. Daozi turned back, casting a puzzled glance at the skinny monkey, who, after contemplating for a moment, whispered something to Daozi at this moment. Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan felt a slight sense of triumph, thinking to themselves that regardless of their efforts, they would be unable to uncover the hidden money. "What do you do to us?" Upon hearing the words of the thin monkey, Daozi immediately understood and addressed the two, saying, "Take off your shoes." The first to react was Daozi, who inquired, "Daozi, what are you planning to do?" Daozi finally lit a cigarette, took a deep puff, and sternly instructed Daozi, "Stand aside and learn." Zhang Xiaoxuan swiftly complied, removing both his shoes and socks with remarkable efficiency, standing barefoot on the ground. Lin Ye, however, was momentarily taken aback. He had not anticipated that these individuals would become so astute today, especially since his money was tucked away in his shoes. Consequently, his movements were unusually sluggish. Noticing the delay, Daozi stepped forward and forcibly removed Lin Ye's shoes. Inside the right shoe, 3 folded 10 yuan bills lay against the sole. In the left shoe, 2 10 yuan notes were huddled together. The 50 yuan, now carrying the scent of feet, was finally seized by Daozi, who beamed with delight, almost wishing to kiss the money to express his joy. When he turned to search Zhang Xiaoxuan's shoes, he found not a single coin. Chapter 2. Robbery without violence. Daozi chuckled upon seeing the 50 yuan, exclaiming, "Damn, hidden in his shoes. No wonder we couldn't find it." He pondered for a moment before adding, "Wait a minute, this guy shouldn't be completely broke, right?" This was a query Daozi himself wished to pose. How could they search him thoroughly and find not a single cent? According to the thin monkey's intelligence, this fellow was supposedly quite affluent. The thin monkey, observing from the side, pondered for a long time before suddenly slapping his forehead and whispering something to Daozi. Daozi, puzzled, asked, "Is there more to this?" The thin monkey shrugged, suggesting, "Why not just find out?" "All right then," Daozi said to Daozi, "go ahead and strip that guy's pants." Daozi looked distressed and replied, "Daozi, isn't that a bit inappropriate? We are only here to rob for money, not for anything else." Stripping his pants. Quit the chatter and do as you're told. If you keep hesitating, you'll regret it. At that moment, Zhang Xiaoxuan was rendered speechless. The idea of stripping pants was truly outrageous. Lin Ye glanced at Zhang Xiaoxuan and thought to himself, could this guy really have hidden money in his underwear? How could he be more disgusting than himself? Reluctantly obeying Daozi's orders, Daozi stepped forward and said to Zhang Xiaoxuan, "Brother, I truly apologize. It might hurt just a bit, but it will be over soon. Daozi then kicked Dogzi in the rear, scolding, "Quit your whining and get on with it." After receiving the kick, Dogzi moved with much more agility. Before Zhang Xiaoxuan could react, his pants were swiftly yanked down. The onlookers were left astounded. Although Zhang Xiaoxuan was facing the wall, he could still see out of the corner of his eye that there was a zippered pocket in his underwear. Daozi, gazing at the pocket with astonishment, remarked, "Wow, such stylish underwear. This guy has quite the taste." Dogzi, momentarily stunned, turned to Zhang Xiaoxuan and asked, "Brother, where did you buy these underwear?" At that moment, Lin Ye seemed to forget his own predicament and blurted out, "A master indeed, hiding money there." Daozi exchanged a knowing glance with Dogzi, signaling him to unzip and conduct a thorough search. Without hesitation, Dogzi pulled the zipper down, and the group craned their necks to see what was revealed: a 100 yuan note, along with several 10 yuan bills. Dogzi seized the money triumphantly, exclaiming, "Daozi, we've hit the jackpot, haha." Daozi's face broke into a smile as he thought to himself, finally, they had found the money. Unexpectedly, it was a big catch. He stepped forward, snatched the bills, and counted them, a total of 140 yuan. He laughed heartily, saying, "Let's pull his pants back up now." "Don't touch. I can do it myself," Zhang Xiaoxuan retorted, lifting his pants back up while casting a furious glance at the thin monkey. The thin monkey, unfazed, whistled and strolled about. "Well, you two certainly have a decent stash. Here, take two 10 yuan notes each. Don't say I, Daozi, am unsympathetic. At least I'm leaving you a little something to eat." Lin Ye bent down to pick up the notes and asked Daozi, "Can we leave now?" Daozi chuckled, tucking the money into his pocket, and said, "Brothers, I've left you a way out. Don't you have any thoughts about that?" Confused, Lin Ye replied, while Zhang Xiaoxuan cautiously asked, "Daozi, what do you mean by thoughts? We truly have no ulterior motives, really." Daozi shook his head with a wry smile and gestured for Dogzi to elaborate. Seizing the opportunity, Dogzi exclaimed loudly, "Are you two really that clueless? What Daozi means is, you both need to pay a tribute. How much will it be?" Daozi, growing impatient, kicked Dogzi again. Dogzi, still unaware of his fault, stared blankly at Daozi. Daozi scolded, "Did you bring your brain with you today? 500? You want me to pay you?" Feeling wronged, Dogzi replied, "No, I thought these two looked wealthy, so I figured saying a larger amount might get us more." "Get lost. Go stand at the back." Daozi turned back to Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan with a smile, saying, "Sorry about that. My brother meant 50, just 50, nothing more. From now on, you two are my brothers. Whether in school or outside, if anyone bullies you, just mention my name, and I will definitely help you out. What do you say, gentlemen? This deal is not a loss, right?" Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan exchanged glances and asked, "Daozi, are you asking for protection money?" Daozi patted the yuan bills in his pocket and replied, "Yes, the professional term is protection fee. I call it tribute. You know, we all play on the streets, and who knows when trouble might arise. When that happens, as my brothers, I can help you out." Lin Ye gradually understood. Having tasted success, they were being treated as a lucrative source for exploitation. He then inquired, "So, Daozi, where should we pay you next time?" "Today is Monday, so let's say Friday, same place," Daozi said with a charming smile. "All right then, Daozi, can we leave now?" Lin Ye asked again. Go ahead, you're free to leave." Daozi pulled out the money and counted it once more. As Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan gathered their books to depart, the thin monkey glanced at their books and whispered something to Daozi. After hearing this, Daozi called out, "Hey, you two." Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan turned around to face Daozi, asking, "Is there something else?" Daozi stepped forward, patted both of their shoulders, and took their books into his possession, saying, "Brothers, it's like this. I've thought it over. It's not that I don't trust you, but you need to leave something behind, right? I see these two books are quite nice. Why not leave them with me? Once you bring the money, I will naturally return them." The two individuals were understandably reluctant. One lamented the loss of their books, which hindered further learning, while the other bemoaned the impossibility of acquiring replacements. With a stern voice, Daozi finally declared, "Enough. The books are not truly lost. Let's leave them with Shouho for now. As for you two, endure for a few days. Once the money arrives, the books will naturally be returned, and I, Daozi, always keep my word." Ultimately, both the books and the money were seized by the group of ruffians, who left with repeated reminders not to forget the payment due on Friday. It must be said that Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan were indeed unfortunate. Having initially planned to share a meal and peruse books atop the rockery, they found themselves under the watchful eye of the cunning Shouho. Mere moments after they settled on the grass, the unruly group made their entrance. At that moment, the two sat on the early spring grass, clutching a 10 yuan bill in silence. Damn it! After a prolonged pause, Zhang Xiaoxuan finally uttered this exclamation. Lin Ye cast a glance at her and remarked, "I never would have imagined you'd have so much cash on you, tucked away like that." He then discreetly eyed the area around her waist. Zhang Xiaoxuan retorted, "You're no better. You didn't exactly place your money where it should be either." "True enough. We've been robbed so often. I've lost over 100 in total. And you, well, you lost 140 in one go." Lin Ye shook his head. 130. Thank you very much, Zhang Xiaoxuan replied, waving the battered 10 yuan bill, which bore the marks of her distress. Yes, 130. Others say brothers should share the same roof and face trials together. Here we are, sharing the same roof and enduring robberies together. How tragic, Lin Ye said with a bitter smile. Suddenly, Zhang Xiaoxuan recalled something and said to Lin Ye, I remember you mentioned a cousin of yours. Perhaps we should reach out to him? Lin Ye shook his head. It's not that I don't want to connect. I'm just contemplating whether we could truly immerse ourselves in that lifestyle. To be blunt, they're also ruffians, though not merely petty thieves. If we were to get entangled, I fear we might never escape. Zhang Xiaoxuan countered, I don't think so. Honestly, I feel we wouldn't. Even if we did, it's still better than our current plight. Look at us, constantly bullied by those thugs. I've had enough of this life. Lin Ye chuckled, glancing at Zhang Xiaoxuan. I can't shake the feeling that, deep down, you harbor the spirit of a rogue yourself, extremely dissatisfied with the present and lacking in confidence. Pausing, he sighed, truth be told, I feel the same, but am reluctant to admit it. It's quite laughable. If we were to become ruffians, what would we be seen as in our teacher's eyes? Zhang Xiaoxuan smiled and retorted, Why, a scholarly rogue, of course. What else could we be? After contemplating for a while, Lin Ye replied, Fine, life is exhausting as it is, always on edge. Tonight won't work. How about tomorrow night? Shall we go together? Zhang Xiaoxuan nodded. All right, tomorrow night it is. I'll inform my parents that I won't be returning. It was during one of those early spring evenings, amid the transition from winter to spring, that the pact made atop the rockery by two young souls irrevocably altered the course of their lives. Chapter 3. Brotherly affection. Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan share a friendship characterized by mutual understanding yet minimal interaction. They engage in academic discussions, yet their lives do not intertwine extensively. Both achieved nearly identical scores to gain admission into Xinguang High School, a prestigious institution in Yucheng, renowned for maintaining an impressive college admission rate, with over 40% qualifying for first-tier universities and 70% for second-tier institutions in previous years. Within this esteemed school, Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan stand out as exemplary students, earning the admiration of their homeroom teacher, Wang Jianya, who cherishes them as prized pupils, one excelling in the sciences and the other in the arts. Excellence in academics signifies exceptional character. Thus, obedient students are favored by teachers. Indeed, over the past 6 months, the duo's remarkable performance has garnered Wang Jianya's newfound respect. Within the school, while some students flourish academically, others falter. Similarly, there are diligent individuals alongside mischievous ones. Wang Shi, known as Skinny Monkey, belongs to the latter category. His academic performance was initially dismal, with his entrance examination scores falling far below the admission threshold. However, due to his affluent parents who paid a substantial fee for school selection, he donned the facade of a distinguished student. Though he may appear to belong to a prestigious institution, his academic prowess remains hollow. The enrollment capacity at Xinguang High School was already filled, and these privileged students had established connections and provided financial inducements to secure their places. The school administration found themselves powerless against such influence, as higher authorities dictated the admissions process, compelling them to accommodate these students, relegating them to the back of the class. Thus, Class 8 of the first year was formed, comprising students either wealthy or influential. The school leadership, exasperated, declared a hands-off policy, permitting these students to roam freely as if they were merely older toddlers. Skinny Monkey gained notoriety in this class for his habitual tardiness, frequent absences, fights, and harassment of female students. Following an incident where he was caught smoking on campus, his homeroom teacher mandated that he summon his parents. Instead, he chose to skip school for several days, and ultimately, the matter faded away without resolution. Not far from Lin Ye's home, there is an alley where a family resides. Their son, Li Hao, of a similar age to Lin Ye, equally disinterested in academics. He failed to complete 3 years of middle school and adamantly refused to return to school. In desperation, his father pursued him down the streets with a stick, an event witnessed by the neighbors. Lin Ye's parents often reference this incident as a cautionary tale, urging him never to associate with Li Hao. Ultimately, Li Hao's parents, realizing their son was not inclined toward education, resigned themselves to the situation, instructing him to remain at home for 2 years until he was of age to enlist in the military, hoping he could secure a job upon his return. Li Hao accepted this arrangement with a sense of resignation. Initially, he adhered to his parents' wishes, staying home and avoiding the outside world. However, as time passed, the monotony of solitude became unbearable, and with his parents often absent, returning only to leave money, he eventually ventured out to socialize, frequently disappearing for nights on end. During his excursions, he befriended Zhao Gang, who was 6 or 7 years his senior. Having nowhere to stay, Zhao Gang followed Li Hao home to rest. Upon arrival, Zhao Gang felt a sense of familiarity. A sudden realization struck him. He had visited this place during his childhood when a distant cousin lived nearby. However, as time passed, he had forgotten due to the years that had gone by. Li Hao jestingly remarked, "Brother Gang, it seems you encounter acquaintances wherever you go." Zhao Gang confidently replied, "Indeed. His surname is Lin. Are there any families with the surname Lin around here?" Li Hao scratched his head and responded, "Yes. There is a family with that surname just around the corner from my alley, but you have to turn a couple of bends to reach it. They have a child about my age who just started his first year of high school, and he is an excellent student at our city's key secondary school." After a thoughtful glance at Zhao Gang, Li Hao added, "To be honest, you two do share a resemblance." Zhao Gang surveyed the nearby buildings, all of which were similar in scale and constructed by their own families. The evening's obscurity made it challenging to distinguish them, so he shook his head and muttered, "Cousin. A cousin with the surname Lin." The following afternoon, unexpectedly, Lin Ye passed by Zhao Gang's home. In a moment of urgency, Li Hao swiftly pulled Lin Ye inside. Seeing an unfamiliar face, Lin Ye was alarmed, suspecting foul play until they clarified each other's identities and settled down. Observing Zhao Gang closely, Lin Ye perceived him as someone accustomed to the struggles of society, and he found it hard to believe the circumstances. Ultimately, Zhao Gang advised Lin Ye that if he ever faced difficulties, he could seek help from Li Hao, and he urged Li Hao not to let anyone bully Lin Ye. After leaving Li Hao's house, Lin Ye dismissed the encounter, thinking to himself, "What could I possibly need help with? I am no troublemaker. I am a good student." Until this afternoon, when Lin Ye stood once again before Li Hao's door, contemplating whether to buy them a pack of cigarettes or a bottle of water. He found himself lost in thought when Li Hao appeared. "Hey, brother, passing by today? Or are you here to hang out?" Li Hao's invitation to hang out was far from sincere. Deep down, he resented academically successful individuals and those children praised by adults, for he felt he was not one of them. Lin Ye cautiously inquired, "How go? I would like to see Brother Gang. Could you arrange a meeting for me?" Li Hao lifted his gaze to scrutinize Lin Ye and replied, "Brother Gang? You just said you didn't know him. Why are you looking for him now?" Lin Ye clarified, "It was a misunderstanding. I sincerely hope you can introduce me to Brother Gang. I have an urgent matter to discuss." He looked at Li Hao with pleading eyes. Displeased by Lin Ye's demeanor, Li Hao waved dismissively, "Let's meet in the evening. He'll be here then, and I'll let you know." "Thank you, how go? I'll bring a friend along. So, we'll see each other tonight," Lin Ye said, but before he could finish, Li Hao had already retreated into the house. As evening approached, just before self-study, Lin Ye rested his head on the desk, pondering what to say to Zhao Gang later. Zhang Xiaoxuan squeezed over and asked, "So, will you meet him tonight?" Lin Ye rubbed his temples and replied, "Yes, it's all set. We'll meet tonight. Are you prepared?" Zhang Xiaoxuan, puzzled, inquired, "What preparations?" Lin Ye pondered for a moment and replied, "We ought to bring some cigarettes and liquor. Since we are visiting, it would seem rather insincere to arrive empty-handed." Zhang Xiaoxuan paused, her brow furrowing. "I hadn't considered that. Should we purchase beer or liquor?" "Naturally, beer," Lin Ye retorted, casting a sidelong glance at her. "Can you even handle liquor?" He continued, "The real question is, what kind of cigarettes should we buy?" Surveying their surroundings, Zhang Xiaoxuan noticed the deserted classroom, and in a hushed tone remarked, "I still have 2 packs of Hilton in my bag, authentic foreign cigarettes. I borrowed them from my father, haha." They exchanged knowing glances, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Lin Ye produced a lighter from his bag, stating, "I have fire, but no cigarettes." Zhang Xiaoxuan chuckled. "Then I suppose I should say I have cigarettes, but no fire." In the school's rear playground, shrouded in darkness, they lit their cigarettes, the tendrils of smoke curling gracefully into the night. Lin Ye hesitated to take deep puffs, finding the smoke rather intense. Yet the flavor was significantly superior to what he had previously experienced. Observing Zhang Xiaoxuan, he was struck by her finesse, her gestures in handling the cigarette reminiscent of a seasoned smoker. Lin Ye coughed lightly, commenting, "Your smoking posture clearly reveals you are no novice. How long have you been smoking?" Zhang Xiaoxuan flicked the ash from her cigarette and replied, "Well, I suppose I started in middle school. During those years, the academic pressure was overwhelming and the novelty of smoking drew me in. I would sneak a few puffs now and then, and my parents, believing me to be a good child, never suspected a thing. My father's cigarettes often disappeared mysteriously, but I suppose he only has himself to blame for his forgetfulness." Lin Ye chuckled. "Sounds familiar, much like my own experience. In the third year of middle school, I developed a crush on a girl. We exchanged love letters until my parents discovered our correspondence, fearing it would affect my studies. They insisted on severing my ties with her and even accompanied me to school until the entrance exams." Zhang Xiaoxuan discarded her cigarette, but, probing, "What happened next?" "Well, we truly lost contact," Lin Ye replied with a wry smile, shaking his head. "The girl, unaware of the circumstances, grew despondent when I ignored her. Ultimately, she did not secure a place in a prestigious school and now attends a private boarding institution." Zhang Xiaoxuan chuckled. "It seems you have let her down." Lin Ye tossed aside his cigarette and laughed. "Let us not dwell on this any longer. Let's head back and prepare. After class, we can go straight to Housy's place." As they walked, Zhang Xiaoxuan queried, "Housy? Who is this Housy?" "He lives nearby, not far from my home. My so-called cousin is waiting for us there." "Oh, so it is a person," she replied. Chapter 4. The distant cousin after 2 classes, totaling an hour and a half. Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan rode their bicycles to their destination, stopping near Housy's house. "Have we arrived?" Zhang Xiaoxuan looked around, noticing a storefront selling goods, while the other residences were tucked away in the alley. She then asked, "Is this the Housy you mentioned, the one who runs a small shop?" Leaning closer to Zhang Xiaoxuan, Lin Ye whispered, "No, this isn't about purchasing alcohol, is it? I dread encountering acquaintances, as it would certainly reach my parents. And that would be disastrous. You go ahead and buy it. After all, nobody here knows you." Zhang Xiaoxuan glanced at Lin Ye and said, "Look at you, so timid. Just wait here, don't wander off. I'm not familiar with this place." "All right, I'll wait for you at the entrance of the second alley. Hurry up." Lin Ye replied before cycling away to hide in the shadows. Zhang Xiaoxuan looked at the sign in front of the convenience store, which read, "Various tobacco, alcohol, and snacks available," confirming that beer was indeed in stock. She dismounted her bicycle and walked directly into the shop. A few minutes later, Zhang Xiaoxuan emerged, clutching a beer, secured it on her bike, gave it a gentle shake to ensure it was stable, and then rode swiftly to Lin Ye. Lin Ye guided Zhang Xiaoxuan through a couple of alleys and eventually stopped in the middle of a narrow lane, dismounted, and knocked on a door. When the person inside opened it, Lin Ye remained silent, fearful that neighbors might overhear and inform his parents about his absence from home after school, leading to inevitable repercussions. Finally, "What took you so long? School is truly a hassle," Housy remarked impatiently. Lin Ye quietly apologized, "I just got out of school," and rushed over. He turned to introduce Zhang Xiaoxian. "This is Hao Go, a friend I've known since childhood. And this is Zhang Xiaoxian, my classmate." Li Hao disregarded Zhang Xiaoxian, turning to walk inside, muttering, "Who said I'm your childhood friend? I certainly don't have that privilege." As he entered the house, he added, "Remember to close the door." Zhang Xiaoxian paused, looking at Lin Ye and saying, "Your friend doesn't seem particularly fond of you." Lin Ye awkwardly chuckled, "It's not that he dislikes me. He simply detests me." "Ah, let's discuss this later. Come inside and close the door." Once inside, Lin Ye placed the beer down and noticed Zhao Gang, the chubby one, and Li Qi gathered around, engrossed in a card game, with paper slips plastered all over the chubby one's face. Zhao Gang was laughing while sticking another note on the bare chest of the chubby one, who scrambled to his feet, exclaiming, "No more, no more. Our college buddy said he needed to talk to you about something. We'll continue later." He was in the midst of peeling off the notes from his face. "Fine. But no cheating." Housy grinned as he shuffled the cards together. Zhang Xiaoxian did not recognize any of these individuals, but Lin Ye quietly introduced them, explaining that they were all of similar age and neighbors who had played together during childhood. However, as they grew older, Lin Ye's academic success had led to his social isolation from them. Zhao Gang, upon seeing Lin Ye, expressed excitement, thinking, "Finally, this kid has come looking for me." Although he felt a bit pleased, he still remarked, "Cousin, what brings you here today? Remembering your brother?" Having had some previous interaction with Zhao Gang, Lin Ye spoke naturally. "Brother Gang, I asked my dad the other day, and indeed, I have a cousin. I truly apologize for last time, after much thought. I figured it best to come and express my regrets, which is why I sought out Hao Go." Zhao Gang lifted his gaze to Li Hao and teased, "Well, Housy, when did you start calling yourself bro?" Li Hao quickly responded with a smile, "Not at all, Gang Go. It was Lin Ye who was just joking." After a brief pause, he pointed at Zhang Xiaoxian, eager to change the subject, and said, "This must be your classmate? Why not introduce her to everyone?" Lin Ye, catching on, pulled Zhang Xiaoxuan closer and declared, "This is my classmate, Zhang Xiaoxuan, a rather good buddy." Zhang Xiaoxuan, holding a cigarette, surveyed the crowd. While the plump fellow and Li Qi exchanged glances upon receiving the cigarette, chuckling about its quality. Zhao Gang glanced at Zhang Xiaoxuan but remained silent. To lighten the mood, Lin Ye cheerfully suggested, "Gang go. I passed by a store and picked up a beer. Shall we drink and chat?" "Sounds good," Zhao Gang replied, rising to stretch his limbs, which cracked audibly. Zhang Xiaoxian appeared momentarily stunned, and the plump fellow, noticing her bewildered expression, teased, "Not used to this, huh? You've never seen Gang Ji's ferocity in a fight before. Go fetch some stools, don't just stand there." A small square table, covered with newspaper, was laden with snacks that Zhang Xiaoxian had picked up alongside the beer. 6 small stools gathered around, and once a bottle of beer was consumed, the conversation flowed freely. Haozi was the first to speak. "Gango, I would like to say a few words on behalf of them about Lin Ye, if I may." Before Haozi could finish, the plump fellow interjected, "Let me take this one. Your words are as clumsy as they come." Zhao Gang chuckled. "What do you mean by clumsy?" The plump fellow pondered for a moment and replied, "Like a pair of pants that you can't untie, endlessly tangled." Zhao Gang laughed even harder. "Go on, Lin Ye. Listen carefully and see what the plump fellow has to say." The plump fellow raised his head, took a swig of beer, and set the bottle down, saying, "Lin Ye, it's not that we're criticizing you, but we've all played together since childhood. Back then, whenever you were bullied, which one of us didn't stand in front of you to protect you? Now that we've grown up, your studies excel while ours lag behind. If that makes us dullards, then so be it. But when we sought you out, you shut us out. What does that mean?" Lighting a cigarette, he continued, "At that time, your academic prowess drew comparisons from the neighbors, who always said we fell short of you, calling you obedient and us mischievous. Tell me, how could we not resent you?" Lin Ye lowered his head and replied, "Plump fellow, I was wrong back then. My parents forbade me from associating with you, claiming it would affect my studies." "I'm sorry," Li Qi scoffed. "See, still with the studies talk. Your friend seems to be quite the scholar too, doesn't he?" Haozi remained silent, absorbed in his drink. Zhang Xiaoxian, realizing the conversation had shifted to her, hurriedly laughed. "Oh no, that's not true." Her words were abruptly halted by Zhao Gang, who slammed the bottle down, startling everyone at the table. "All right, enough of that. Excelling in studies is a talent of theirs, unlike us, a bunch of roughnecks. Come on, let's drink. From now on, we are all brothers, no infighting allowed." Lin Ye quickly raised his bottle and affirmed, "Indeed, indeed. Gango is right. From now on, we are all brothers. I, Lin Ye, solemnly vow that if I ever wrong a brother, I shall suffer a fate worse than death." Laughter erupted. "Do you even have a wife?" Of course, Lin Ye's vow was taken lightly, and the group dismissed it as mere jest, not taking it to heart. Amidst the ruckus, the initial animosity dissipated, gradually giving way to laughter and conversation. A box of liquor nearly emptied. Zhang Xiaoxian volunteered to procure more drinks, while Haozi, concerned for his unfamiliarity with the area, urged Fatty to accompany him. Reluctantly, Fatty protested, questioning why he should go along. Zhao Gang, with a pointed gaze, remarked, "You are already quite portly. If you do not engage in some exercise, you might find yourself in dire straits." Fatty, left with no option, complied, not forgetting to tuck a salted duck leg into his pocket before departing. The others remained engrossed in lively discussions, creating a vibrant atmosphere. Lin Ye inquired about Zhao Gang's recent undertakings, to which Zhao Gang recounted his experiences, seemingly understated yet fraught with hardship. Due to poor academic performance, he entered a sports school after middle school, where, through rigorous training, he discovered his physique was well suited for wrestling. 3 years later, though his height had not significantly increased, he was now a mass of muscle. After graduation, he worked for a boss but was caught in a brawl and subsequently detained by the police, who interrogated him repeatedly about matters he knew nothing of, ultimately sentencing him to 6 months under public security regulations. Upon his release, his employer had vanished, and with limited skills, he was left to transform a remaining warehouse into a makeshift gym. Chapter 5. Resolution. Upon concluding his narrative, Fatty and Zhang Xiaoxian returned, each bearing 2 cases of beer. Haozi, taken aback by their substantial purchase, exclaimed, "Are you planning to bathe in it?" Fatty chuckled, replying, "It's for soaking, of course." "Haha." Zhang Xiaoxian tore open a packet of peanuts, saying, "No worries, if we can't finish it, we can continue tomorrow." Zhao Gang glanced at Zhang Xiaoxian, thinking him rather genuine. Given Fatty's stingy nature, he would never treat everyone to drinks. He nudged Lin Ye and inquired, "What is your classmate's name again?" This caught Zhang Xiaoxuan's attention, and before he could respond, Zhang Xiaoxuan raised his beer bottle, clinking it against Zhao Gang's as he said, "Brother Gang, I am Zhang Xiaoxuan. Just call me Xiaoxuan from now on. I have been a long-time friend of Lin Ye and have heard him sing your praises, so I came today for a visit. I hope you won't take offense." Lin Ye, feeling slightly embarrassed, thought to himself, "When did I ever claim to be long-time friends with you, Zhang Xiaoxuan? Just an hour ago, you didn't even know your way around here." Zhao Gang, taken aback, mused, "You see, this is what it means to be cultured. Their words differ from those of us rough-hewn individuals, and they are pleasing to the ear." Turning to Zhang Xiaoxuan, he continued, "Xiaoxuan, that's a nice name. If you ever need anything, just let Brother Gang know. While I may lack other talents, we certainly have our fair share of fighters here. Now let us drink." With that, another half bottle was downed. Observing that Zhao Gang had consumed quite a bit, Zhang Xiaoxuan swiftly raised his bottle and downed an entire bottle of beer in a few gulps, earning cheers from the group for his boldness. Lin Ye regarded Zhang Xiaoxuan, realizing he had quite the capacity for alcohol, which explained the additional purchase of beer. Once Zhang Xiaoxuan finished his drink, he set the bottle down, let out a belch, and offered Zhao Gang a cigarette, then proceeded to distribute them among the group, stating, "Brother Gang, there is indeed a troublesome matter at hand. I could handle it myself, but with only Lin Ye and me, I feel a bit anxious." "What is it? Speak." Zhao Gang lit a cigarette and inquired, causing the others to pause their actions and listen attentively as Zhang Xiaoxuan began to recount the matter at hand. Lin Ye, sensing the discussion had shifted to the main topic, took a sip of his drink and added, "It's not a significant issue. Merely a small thug who stole 2 of our books, along with a total of 170 yuan from both Lin Ye and myself. He has threatened us, demanding 100 yuan by Friday in exchange for the return of our books." As Lin Ye spoke, Zhang Xiaoxuan interjected, seizing the conversation. Upon hearing this, everyone was incensed, particularly the stout individual who shook his ample flesh and exclaimed, "Which blind fool dares to rob us, our own brothers? Gangzi, this cannot simply be overlooked." Zhao Gang shook the liquor bottle, lit another cigarette, and asked, "What is that fellow's name? How old is he? Where is he from? I only know the leader is called Daozi, and his sidekick is named Guzi. I'm unfamiliar with the others," Lin Ye replied. Daozi? Li Qi, who had remained silent for quite some time, finally spoke up, almost forgotten. He furrowed his brow in contemplation and continued, "He's of average height, has long hair, and possesses quite a distinctive personality, looking a couple of years older than us." "Is Guzi the one who appears somewhat dim-witted, speaking without much thought?" Housie inquired. Yes. Those 2, along with 3 others who stood silently at the back. Their names escape me," Zhang Xiaoxuan confirmed. Zhao Gang, with a grim expression, asked, "Do you know them?" Seeing Zhao Gang's displeasure, Li Qi hurriedly clarified, "Gangzi, please don't misunderstand. It's simply due to being in the same district and being small-time thugs ourselves. It's unavoidable to recognize each other. However, our interactions are limited to mere nods of acknowledgement. That group spends their days extorting money from students and engaging in disreputable activities, which is why many petty criminals, including us, disdain associating with them. Daozi is merely a nickname. I truly do not know his real name." After hearing Li Qi's explanation, Zhao Gang turned to Housie, who shrugged and said, "Like Li Qi, I only have a nodding acquaintance with them. The sight of that group repulses me." Once reassured that neither Housie nor Li Qi had any affiliations with Daozi's gang, Zhao Gang lit a cigarette and asked Zhang Xiaoxuan, "Are you saying they will return tomorrow?" Zhang Xiaoxuan nodded. "Yes, they said we each need to give them 50 yuan, and they promised to protect us in the future." Lin Ye felt Zhao Gang's fury ignite within him. Gripping the liquor bottle, he cursed vehemently. "What kind of talent is extorting students? Where will we meet on Friday? I will take people there and give him a taste of his own medicine." "Indeed. Let us go. On Friday, we shall all go, find that scoundrel, and teach him a lesson," the stout man declared, raising his liquor bottle in righteous indignation. At that moment, Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan finally felt a sense of relief, having found a protector, allowing them to believe that future bullying would soon be a thing of the past. That night, the group indulged in copious amounts of alcohol, and ultimately, Lin Ye stumbled home, carefully making his way to his room before collapsing into slumber. Zhang Xiaoxuan stayed over at Housie's house, while Housie, with a remarkable capacity for alcohol, continued to drink with Li Qi until the latter succumbed to unconsciousness, slumped over the table. Zhang Xiaoxuan turned around, preparing to face Housie, who hastily waved his hands in surrender. Observing Housie's reluctance to engage, Zhang Xiaoxuan redirected her gaze towards Fatty. Upon noticing her attention, Fatty quickly rose, exclaiming, "I can't take it anymore. I need to head to the restroom to vomit. You all carry on." This scene elicited hearty laughter from Zhao Gang, who praised Zhang Xiaoxuan's remarkable tolerance. Zhang Xiaoxian was hesitant to drink with Zhao Gang. After consuming so much beer, he had not once ventured to the restroom. Revealing himself to be a bottomless pit, it would be prudent not to test one's limits. As the drinking paused, the conversation flowed unabated. Zhang Xiaoxian pulled Haozi aside, urging him to share his techniques for wooing girls. She confessed to having long harbored an interest in a girl from class, yet feigned modesty, fearing the scrutiny of others and the potential reprimand from teachers that could lead to a painful ordeal at home. Haozi chuckled at this, remarking, "Zhang Xiaoxian, you are quite the catch. You possess both stature and wealth. If you lack the courage now, how will you ever attract a wife?" Fatty, overhearing their discussion about pursuing girls, rushed back into the room, and thus began a lively discourse among the three. Zhao Gang observed their chatter with a smile, partaking in his drink, embodying the role of an elder brother, simply watching their antics unfold. The manner in which the group slept that night was unknown to Lin Ye. But when he encountered Zhang Xiaoxian the following day, he was met with the unmistakable scent of alcohol. "So you didn't return home last night?" Lin Ye inquired. "No," Zhang Xiaoxian replied. "Haozi imparted an entire night's worth of dating techniques to me. It was fascinating. I feel an urge to test my skills now." Zhang Xiaoxian wore a mischievous expression. Lin Ye scoffed at Haozi's dating advice, reflecting on the years he had known him without ever seeing him with a girl. "Oh, it seems you've learned quite a bit?" Lin Ye continued to tease Zhang Xiaoxian. She blushed, leaning closer to Lin Ye and whispering, "Hee, isn't it intriguing?" "Oh my." Lin Ye chuckled. "You've been led astray all night." He shifted his chair forward and pressed on. "I know what that thing is, but what exactly is it?" Lin Ye displayed a curious countenance, genuinely eager to learn about such matters. Zhang Xiaoxian burst into laughter. "It seems we are both still novices in this realm." After a brief pause, she provocatively asked, "What are you referring to exactly?" Just as Lin Ye was about to compel Zhang Xiaoxian to divulge the truth, the school bell rang. Before they knew it, Friday had arrived, and the school day was drawing to a close. The lanky king she paced outside their classroom, while Lin Ye pretended not to notice. Zhang Xiaoxian was busy assessing her learning from the previous day, engaging in lively conversation with a quiet girl. Lin Ye pondered whether Zhao Gang would indeed bring anyone along, doodling on a 5 yuan note, oblivious to what he was sketching until he realized it bore his own name, Lin Huahua. Zhang Xiaoxian was confident that Zhao Gang and his friends would show up, and continued her idle chatter. However, Lin Ye was filled with uncertainty, contemplating the possibility that Zhao Gang might change his mind at the last moment. "Oh well," he thought, "if worst comes to worst, I'll just endure a beating from those ruffians." Chapter 6. Deception. Upon reflecting on this, Lin Ye hastily stuffed the money into his pocket and slammed the book onto the table with a forceful thud. The sound reverberated through the classroom, drawing the puzzled gazes of the remaining students towards him. They were taken aback. The ordinarily diligent Lin Ye seemed out of character with such an aggressive display. Zhang Xiaoxian glanced at Lin Ye before shifting her attention to the lanky figure outside, dismissing the incident and returning to her unfinished tasks. The quiet girl, startled by the commotion, could no longer remain seated and inquired of Zhang Xiaoxian, "What is wrong with Lin Ye? He appears to be such a well-behaved student." Zhang Xiaoxian, stealing another glance at Lin Ye, chuckled lightly. "Oh, it's nothing. He's just having a moment." Her words elicited a chorus of giggles from the quiet girl. The first to succumb to curiosity was the lanky boy, who, noticing Lin Ye's unusual behavior, ultimately decided to enter the classroom. Approaching Lin Ye's desk, he tapped it lightly and gestured towards Zhang Xiaoxian, indicating they should step outside with him. The quiet girl, perplexed by the sudden shift in conversation, pulled Zhang Xiaoxian aside, asking what is going on. "Is there a problem?" She cast a wary glance at the lanky boy. He shot her a warning look, saying, "Mind your own business and stay put." The abrupt intimidation unsettled the girl, but Zhang Xiaoxian whispered words of reassurance. "It's fine. We'll just be out for a moment and we'll return shortly." The other students present understood the implications and chose to remain silent, preferring to avoid involvement. In matters like these, as long as one is not personally affected, it is often wiser to avoid complications. No one dared to inform the teacher, as that would only lead to unnecessary trouble and unwanted scrutiny. Ultimately, Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxian opted to exit the classroom with the lanky boy, realizing that resisting might lead to greater complications later on. Lin Ye silently hoped that Zhao Gang and the others had already arrived. Once outside, the lanky boy grinned and asked, "So, have you both brought the money?" Lin Ye forced a smile, responding, "Of course. Absolutely." Zhang Xiaoxian quickly revealed a corner of the small stack of 5 yuan bills. The lanky boy turned to Lin Ye and inquired, "What about yours?" Lin Ye, lacking sufficient funds, chuckled and replied, Are you planning to inspect the goods first, or will you take them for yourself afterwards? There's no rush. We haven't even met with Brother Dao yet. Are you worried I might run off and default on my payment? The lanky boy considered this and glanced at the bills in Zhang Xiaoxuan's possession, his expression brightening. Suddenly, Lin Ye remembered something and deftly pulled out a 5 yuan note. Handing it to the lanky boy, "What's this? What does it mean?" The lanky boy asked, a rare excitement flickering in his eyes. Lin Ye replied, "Look, when we give the money to Brother Dao, he will surely share a portion with you. This," he gestured to the bill in the lanky boy's hand, "is a token from the two of us to you. We kindly ask that you return those 2 books to us." He then exchanged a knowing glance with Zhang Xiaoxuan. Zhang Xiaoxuan understood and added, "Yes, exactly, Brother Lanky. We're not going anywhere. You'll need to return for the books. And it would be shameful to waste time on this when we could be more productive. Didn't a great person once say that wasting someone else's time is akin to robbing them of life? We cannot afford to squander your valuable time." Zhang Xiaoxuan's eloquent words were laced with flattery and gifts, executed with ostentatious grandeur. The thin monkey, contemplating his money for a moment, found himself unable to pinpoint any fault in the other party. Holding the money aloft, he glanced at the 2 and inquired, "Shall I keep this for now?" Lin Ye, gently pushing the thin monkey's hand into his pocket, reassured him, "You may confidently accept it. There is no cause for concern." Zhang Xiaoxuan clapped her hands and smiled. "Brother Thin Monkey, that money has been tucked away. Your smile is now even more pronounced." He replied, "Very well, just a moment, I'll be right back." Before turning to head towards his classroom, Lin Ye pulled Zhang Xiaoxuan aside and whispered, "In a bit, that fellow will return with the books. You must hand over all the money in front of him, and then I will discreetly slip the money into the books when the thin monkey isn't looking. You can then return the books to the classroom." Zhang Xiaoxuan, bewildered, asked, "Aren't you the one who wants the books?" Lin Ye retorted, "You are the one who stands to lose. Just follow my lead, and there will be no trouble for you." "All right, I trust your scientific acumen," Zhang Xiaoxuan conceded, clenching the money tightly in her hand. Before long, the thin monkey indeed approached, wobbling with 2 books in hand. Lin Ye hurriedly approached with a smile, saying, "Brother Thin Monkey, allow my friend to return the books first. Carrying a couple of tattered books serves little purpose, does it?" The thin monkey hesitated, withdrawing his hand slightly. Recognizing the doubt, Lin Ye reassured him, "How about this, Xiaoxian? You hand over the money to me first, and I will go ahead. You can catch up after delivering the books. What do you say?" "Fine," she agreed, and according to their plan, Zhang Xiaoxian handed a stack of money to Lin Ye. Lin Ye, holding the money, turned to the thin monkey and said, "Are you reassured now?" The thin monkey, seeing the money was given to Lin Ye, ceased his suspicions and directly handed the 2 books to Zhang Xiaoxian. With the books in hand, Zhang Xiaoxian felt torn between staying and leaving. Lin Ye quickly moved beside her, turning his back to the thin monkey as he flipped through the pages of the book, muttering, "Ah, this is indeed my book." Upon closing the book, he tossed it into Zhang Xiaoxuan's arms, saying, "Go now, return the book to the classroom." At the moment of closing the book, Lin Ye had discreetly tucked the money within its pages. Observing that the thin monkey remained oblivious, Zhang Xiaoxian said nonchalantly, "Brother Thin Monkey, shall I go deliver the books now?" The thin monkey, flustered by the bribery, waved his hand impatiently. "Make it quick. I doubt you can concoct any tricks." Lin Ye urged Zhang Xiaoxian, "Hurry back." Thus, she was gently nudged back towards the classroom. Lin Ye, rather than lingering with the thin monkey, slowly made his way towards the school gates, albeit at a sluggish pace. He was uncertain whether Zhang Xiaoxian would follow and whether she truly comprehended his intentions, for until they neared the school entrance, she remained unseen. The thin monkey turned back after a while, his mouth twitching. "Your friend hasn't abandoned you, has he?" Lin Ye chuckled, as if, "Even if we were to flee, we might escape the monk, but the temple remains. We shall proceed first. He is likely frightened and has rushed to the restroom, leaving his money in my possession. Thus there is no cause for concern." Observing Lin Ye patting his pocket, the thin monkey took him at his word, remarking, "Look at that coward, such a tall fellow, yet utterly useless." Having said this, he continued to saunter ahead, while Lin Ye hurriedly followed, wearing a forced smile. Diagonally across from the school gate stood 2 modest artificial hills, their gentle slopes encircled by a man-made barrier, and commonly referred to as a garden, though it boasted not a single blossom, merely a carpet of grass. Surrounding it lay cobblestone paths, dotted with a few stone benches. To the right of the hills was the wall of Huashan Hospital, curving in a semicircle, with a stretch of gently sloping grassland in between. Following this path led to a secluded patch of grass at the back. It was here that romantic pursuits often unfolded among students. and where conflicts between male students were typically resolved through one-on-one duels or brawls. Rumor had it that a fatal incident had occurred here a few years prior, which explained the hospital's proximity, an immediate refuge for those injured in altercations, it seemed. Of course, just days earlier, a robbery had also transpired in this very spot. Returning to this place, Lin Ye felt an unsettling apprehension, especially as he glanced around, failing to spot Zhao Gang and his companions, heightening his anxiety. Noticing Lin Ye's unease, the thin monkey inquired, "What are you looking around for?" Lin Ye forced a smile, replying, "Nothing, nothing at all." In the distance, the trio known as the Knives squatted in a grassy nook, resembling a band of beggars. Lin Ye and the thin monkey approached, Lin Ye moving slowly. Feeling akin to a lamb destined for slaughter, his heart raced while he maintained a facade of tranquility, uncertain if he could intimidate them, and resolved to first deceive himself. At that moment, Lin Ye desperately wished to flee, to escape this den of troubles. The surroundings were chaotic, a cold breeze swirling with the emerald blades of grass, while clouds gathered in the sky, thickening ominously with the onset of darkness, as if heralding the arrival of the season's first spring rain. Indeed, as Lin Ye reached the side of the Knives, the first drop of rain landed upon his head. He looked up, announcing, "It's raining." One of the Knives rose, puzzled, asking, "What do you mean?" Lin Ye chuckled lightly. "Oh, it's nothing significant." The Knife's gaze drifted past Lin Ye, searching for others, and he queried, "Where is your companion? Is it just you?" He then turned to the thin monkey for clarification. The thin monkey considered saying he had gone to return a book, but felt that wouldn't suffice. Just as he was about to claim he had gone to the restroom out of fear, Lin Ye preemptively responded, "Same here, same here. As long as the money is brought, does it really matter how many are present?" He glanced at the thin monkey, seeking solidarity. The thin monkey remained silent, pointing at Lin Ye to indicate that the money was with him. The Knife extended a hand, cigarette dangling from his lips, demanding, "Where's the money? Hand it over." Lin Ye gestured toward the thin monkey, stating that he was keeping it safe for them. Upon hearing this, the thin monkey's mind struggled to comprehend, thinking to himself, "When have you ever given me money?" He kicked at Lin Ye, exclaiming, "When did I ever take your money? You better clarify that." Chapter 7. The Tragedy of the Thin Monkey. Lin Ye rubbed his backside, his voice trembling. "Thin monkey, you can't just say things that aren't true." Outside the classroom, you inquired whether I had brought any money, to which I responded affirmatively, even displaying the cash to you. You then expressed concern that Daozi might seize the money without sharing it with you, prompting you to discreetly pocket a 5 yuan note. Lin Ye appeared exceedingly aggrieved, as if the situation were genuinely dire. However, while uttering these words, Lin Ye's gaze was subtly directed towards Daozi. Upon hearing Shouho's remarks, Daozi was instantly incensed, leaping beside Shouho and delivering a sharp slap, exclaiming, "Am I truly such a person?" Shouho, feeling unjustly accused and bewildered, remained silent for an extended moment, nursing his cheek. He glanced back at Lin Ye, only to find him stifling a laugh, which drove Shouho into a fit of irrationality as he lunged towards Lin Ye, intent on administering a proper thrashing. Daozi, however, would not allow this, blocking Shouho's advance and demanding, "Now, explain what on earth is happening here." Daozi, do not heed this scoundrel's fabrications. He is merely sowing discord. I have neither taken their money nor uttered those words. Truly, you must trust me, Shouho asserted, his tone imbued with conviction. Daozi, still somewhat inclined to believe Shouho, reflected on their time together. After all, Shouho was often the mastermind behind their schemes, and it seemed illogical for him to undermine himself without cause. "Then tell me, is there any truth to this? And what of your classmate? Where has he gone?" Daozi's voice rose in anger as he turned to Lin Ye. The sky overhead grew dark and ominous, with a few raindrops having fallen earlier. Yet now it appeared to hold its breath, as if anticipating something. The lights from the garden filtered through the artificial hills, providing enough illumination to discern faces, albeit dimly. Lin Ye cast a glance towards a short distance away, where 2 individuals remained unmoved on the grass, one of whom was leisurely smoking a cigarette, their laughter occasionally ringing out. Perhaps they wondered whether Daozi had summoned them for assistance or for mere amusement. The current scenario resembled a spy thriller, with the lines between truth and deception blurred. Lin Ye placed a hand on his chest, feigning a look of indignation, and articulated, "Shouho indeed took our money, and the portion he pocketed still bears my name. I am now utterly devoid of funds. If you do not believe me, feel free to search." After stating this, Lin Ye proceeded to empty his pockets, even removing his shoes and socks, glancing at Daozi and adding, "Should I remove my trousers as well?" Before Daozi could respond, Shouho interjected, "That is not right. This fellow is scheming. I distinctly witnessed the money transfer into his hands, How could he claim otherwise? Lin Ye responded with a wry smile. Xiaohou, where have you hidden the money? Do retrieve it, for I genuinely possess nothing. Or perhaps, would you like to conduct a search yourself? Xiaohou, wearing an expression of disbelief, approached Lin Ye and thoroughly searched him. Daozi refrained from intervening, thinking to himself that he would observe this dispute until the truth emerged. After an exhaustive search, Xiaohou found not a single penny on Lin Ye, and still incredulous, he searched once more. Upon completing his search, an expression of disbelief washed over his face as he turned to Daozi, who was equally fixated on the two of them. Lin Ye sensed that the moment had arrived. He glanced at Xiaohou and then at Dao Gu, saying, How about this? I will pose a few questions to Xiaohou. Perhaps we can discern the truth of the matter. Dao Zi, bewildered by their exchange, was relieved to hear someone assert they could clarify the situation. He directed his attention to Lin Ye, insisting, First, put on your clothes and honestly recount what transpired. At that moment, a light drizzle began to fall from the sky, and the garden grew increasingly desolate. The early spring rain, though gentle, felt more like an icy chill than a refreshing respite. Lin Ye instinctively shivered and hurriedly donned his clothing, shoes, and socks. Xiaohou, exuding confidence, retorted, I didn't take anything, and I'm not afraid to confront you. Ask your questions quickly. If you don't understand, that's your problem. Very well, Lin Ye replied. I will ask a question, and you will answer. Spit it out. Xiaohou challenged. Lin Ye pondered briefly before inquiring, Were you outside the classroom while my classmate and I were inside? Yes, Xiaohou affirmed, glaring at Lin Ye. I was the one who called you out. After summoning us, did you inquire whether we had money? Indeed, I did. Did you see any money? I did, so what? There was a pile of 5 yuan notes, appearing to total around 100. Did you take any? I did not take a single cent, Xiaohou declared, prompting Lin Ye to chuckle. Realizing he had inadvertently revealed too much, Xiaohou quickly remembered that he indeed had a 5 yuan note in his pocket, which Lin Ye had placed there himself. Lin Ye continued to gaze at Xiaohou with a smile, causing Xiaohou's expression to darken with unease. He glanced at Dao Zi and then back at Lin Ye, contemplating a hasty escape. Anticipating this move, Lin Ye shouted, Dao Gu. This fellow is trying to flee with the money. Dao Zi, now utterly devoid of rational thought, was swiftly joined by the others, who pinned Xiaohou to the ground and began to search him. Yet, Dao Zi, still suspicious of Lin Ye, thoroughly examined him from head to toe, even checking his shoes, only to find he was not concealing anything. As Xiaohou realized they intended to search him, he quickly covered his pockets. However, he was no match for their collective strength. After a brief struggle, they extracted a 5 yuan note and 2 1 yuan notes, along with a 50-cent coin and 2 small coins. Enraged, Dao Zi kicked Xiaohou to the ground, exclaiming, You scoundrel! Xiaohou, now reeling from the blow, cried out, Dao Gu, I swear I, Dao Zi, undeterred, delivered another kick, demanding, Where's the rest of the money? Lin Ye, having redressed himself, interjected, Allow me to address the remaining funds. At this point, it was clear that Dao Zi had lost all faith in Xiaohou's words, pointing at Lin Ye and sternly questioning, Now tell me, where has the rest of the money gone? The spring rain began to fall more steadily, though the volume remained light enough not to dampen their clothes. Lin Ye tightened his coat and remarked, Initially, my classmates and I opposed giving money to the thin monkey. However, he claimed that if he could hold on to the money for a while, he would return our books first. We thought this was reasonable since, in the end, the money would eventually reach your hands, Brother Dao. It didn't matter whose possession it was in the meantime. After a brief pause, he added, We handed over all the money to him before he went back to retrieve the books, and upon receiving the books, he appeared quite pleased and instructed my classmate to return home with them. Hence, my classmate has yet to arrive. Upon hearing Lin Ye's fabricated tale, Dao Zi gritted his teeth in anger. To further incite Dao Zi's fury, Lin Ye continued, feigning indignation, I truly suspect that the two of them conspired against you, absconding with your money and framing me for it. The other 2 men chuckled at this, one of them saying, Well, Dao Zi, is this what you call having work to do? Are you simply entertaining us? Regardless of whether your little brother has absconded with the money, remember, our appearance fee is non-negotiable, irrespective of whether you can resolve this situation. He gestured towards the thin monkey. Dao Zi had lost all sense of reason, unleashing punches and kicks upon the thin monkey, shouting, Where's your money? Hand it over now? The thin monkey, battered and bruised, could only manage a muted expression, unable to utter a single word, let alone defend himself. Chapter 8. Who called the police? At that moment, Zhang Xiaoxuan arrived with Zhao Gang, Haozi, Fatty, Li Qi, and 3 others. Upon witnessing the scene, the newcomers were taken aback. 2 individuals stood by as spectators, while Daozi was mercilessly assaulting one on the ground. And Lin Ye appeared unfazed, arms crossed. Zhang Xiaoxuan, perplexed, inquired, "What on earth is happening? Why has the situation changed?" Daozi and his companions, recognizing the group that suddenly emerged, quickly deduced it was the same crew that had accompanied Lin Ye the other day. Pointing an accusatory finger at Lin Ye, Daozi shouted, "You better wait, I'm not done with you." With that, he disregarded the thin monkey's plight and fled with the other two. Haozi, Li Qi, and Fatty, seasoned streetwise individuals, had anticipated their escape. They cornered the fleeing trio and effectively brought them back. Brother Gang lit a cigarette, took a puff, and directed his gaze at Daozi, saying, "I hear you borrowed 170 yuan from my brother?" Lin Ye, Daozi, and even Zhang Xiaoxian felt a wave of frustration. Indeed, they had not misheard. It was a loan, not a robbery. Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxian were vexed that, at such a critical moment, the discussion had turned to money. A simple beating would suffice. Daozi, on the other hand, was frustrated because that 170 yuan was not borrowed by him. It was a theft, a robbery. However, no one spoke up as Zhao Gang continued, "A loan is a loan. I hear it was borrowed just a few days ago. It's time to settle up. For days have passed. In 2 days, it doubles. So, you owe them 680. Consider this matter resolved. If you fall short by a single penny, the 4 of you can expect to eat dirt today." As the mist swirled around, Lin Ye quietly admired the peculiarities of the world, marveling at how he encountered someone even more verbose than himself. Truly, in this vast expanse of existence, one finds endless surprises. Who would have thought that usurious loans could be so exorbitant, doubling every few days? It appears that only the Zhao family could manage such rates. Later, Lin Ye inquired with Fatty and the others, who explained that they were certain this fellow could not produce such a sum. After all, their intent was not to seek wealth. A sound thrashing would suffice. They merely needed a pretext, which felt quite satisfactory. Upon reflection, Lin Ye agreed. Should this scoundrel truly produce the money he had stolen from them days prior, the confrontation would indeed become troublesome. It was far simpler to claim it was a loan, albeit with a rather steep interest rate. At the very least, they would not be at a disadvantage in terms of reasoning. If questioned, they could simply assert that this rogue owed money to others, and those others were merely claiming what was rightfully theirs. At that moment, the spring rain had begun to fall more densely, and the few souls who had been enjoying the garden-esque rockeries had long since retreated home. Raindrops pierced through the clouds, landing on the grass below, making the ground somewhat slippery. The 4 members of the Thin Monkey's gang emptied their pockets, revealing a meager sum of 28 yuan and 30 cents. As Haozi struck the money from the Thin Monkey's grasp, chaos erupted. 2 against 1. With an extra participant on their side, the 4 from the other group were caught unprepared, expecting to deliver a beating, only to find themselves on the receiving end. At that moment, the cries of distress echoed throughout the small hillock. However, the garden was remarkably devoid of people. Even if someone heard the commotion, they would undoubtedly choose to circumvent the area. Zhao Gang, robust in physique, unleashed a flurry of strikes, each punch and kick slicing through the air with formidable force. Haozi, Fatty, and Li Qi were seasoned fighters, effectively cornering their opponents, leaving no escape route. The 3 accompanying Zhao Gang appeared to have been trained athletes, their combat style systematic and precise. In contrast, Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxian, who fought clumsily, lacked experience, having never encountered such a scene before. Yet, they found themselves instinctively pummeling the Thin Monkey. Zhang Xiaoxian, in particular, harbored a deep-seated resentment towards the Thin Monkey due to his suggestion that had reduced their 140 yuan to a mere 10. Consequently, her strikes were fierce and unrelenting, her elbow driving into the Thin Monkey's face. Blood gushed from his nose as he stumbled about, clutching his face, the slippery ground causing him to fall multiple times, resulting in utter pandemonium. Unexpectedly, just as Lin Ye and his companions were thoroughly engaged, the sound of police sirens pierced the air from beyond the hillock. Fatty, ever observant, shouted in alarm, "Run! The police are coming!" Without a second thought, Lin Ye and the others dashed toward the artificial mountain, while the 3 from the opposing side hastily scrambled to their feet and fled. Only the Thin Monkey remained, seemingly dazed from the beating, curled up on the ground, clutching his head, oblivious to the dampness of the grass beneath him. As Lin Ye descended the hill, he glanced back, catching a blurred glimpse through the rain curtain of the Thin Monkey being restrained by the approaching police. How on earth did the police arrive? Haozi panted as he reached the van on the opposite street. The rotund individual struggled to catch his breath, exclaiming, "No, I don't know. Luckily I managed to sneak my father's car out, otherwise." Zhao Gang, drenched in sweat and rain, shook his head and glanced toward the artificial hill, urging, "Let us not linger, we must leave immediately." After a moment's reflection, he turned to Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxian, inquiring, What about you two? Are you coming along? At that moment, the other three rushed into the vehicle, urging them to depart swiftly. Lin Ye, panting heavily, replied, "You all go ahead. It should be fine. After all, they were the ones who robbed us first. Zhang Xiaoxuan and I have classes tonight. We'll find you after our evening study session." "Thank you, brothers. I'll treat you to drinks later." Zhang Xiaoxuan echoed. Yes, just go. Don't worry about us." "Take care then. I'll see you later," Housie began to say, but the rotund fellow had already pressed the accelerator, vanishing in a cloud of dust. The sound of police sirens still echoed in their ears as Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxian, disregarding everything else, navigated through several alleys until they were certain they were not being pursued. Finally, they settled onto a stone staircase, collapsing onto the steps. Zhang Xiaoxian produced a cigarette, offering it to Lin Ye. Although slightly damp, Lin Ye did not hesitate, lighting it and taking a deep drag. The first inhale made him cough uncontrollably, tears streaming down his face. The intense exertion combined with the smoke left Lin Ye restless. Glancing back, he noticed a pack of Hilton cigarettes. He had no desire to contemplate when he had acquired them. He had clearly finished the previous night's supply, and the rotund fellow had been lighting butts from the ground. Catching his breath, he asked Zhang Xiaoxian, "What's the situation? Why did the police arrive?" The light rain continued to fall as Zhang Xiaoxian looked up at the darkened sky, unable to discern anything. Lowering her gaze with an innocent expression, she took a deep drag from her cigarette and sighed. "Who knows what is going on? Just when I thought we could finally vent our frustrations, this happens." Sigh. Wiping the sweat from his brow and shaking off the rainwater, Lin Ye loosened his collar and inquired, "How did you end up with Brother Gang, and how did you bring them here?" Zhang Xiaoxian pondered for a moment, then looked at Lin Ye with a distressed expression. Confessing, "Lin Ye, I feel like I've been taken advantage of by a girl from our class." "Taken advantage of?" Lin Ye was perplexed by Zhang Xiaoxian's statement. Unsure of what she meant, it was as if he had mirrored her words, transforming her declaration into a question. As Zhang Xiaoxian recounted her experience, Lin Ye gradually grasped the entire sequence of events. Chapter 9. The quiet girl. As soon as Zhang Xiaoxian returned to the classroom, she had barely set her books down when she heard Housie calling her name from outside. Casually tossing her books to the quiet girl, she instructed her to keep them safe, then hurried out to follow Housie. The demure girl was bewildered, observing Zhang Xiaoxian, who had just been engaged in lively conversation, now flitting between various individuals. After handing her 2 books with an air of finality, as if imparting her last wishes, Zhang Xiaoxian instructed her to safeguard them diligently. Upon opening the volumes, she discovered approximately 100 yuan in cash, stirring a sense of suspicion within her. Clutching the books tightly, she trailed behind Zhang Xiaoxian as they exited the school, only to encounter a group of youths who bore no resemblance to students. They seized Zhang Xiaoxian and rushed into a small valley opposite the school. In their haste, the several men failed to glance back, unaware of the girl shadowing them. The girl watched helplessly as Zhang Xiaoxian was led deep into the valley, her heart racing with anxiety. Unable to contemplate the implications any further, she turned and sprinted toward a telephone booth, urgently dialing 110 to report the incident. This sequence encapsulated the unfolding events. Zhang Xiaoxian, discarding her cigarette butt, fixed a serious gaze upon Lin Ye, who could only offer a resigned smile, feeling as though he were merely a spectator in a dramatic tale, one marked by uncanny coincidences. After a moment of contemplation, Lin Ye addressed Zhang Xiaoxian earnestly, "Truthfully, you two are not suited for one another." Zhang Xiaoxian shot him a sidelong glance, retorting, "Are you jealous? Since you have no affections for anyone, you wish to deny me my chance? Moreover, can one truly judge a girl's character based on such trivial matters?" "That is not my point," Lin Ye replied, casting a glance at Zhang Xiaoxian before continuing. "You genuinely are not compatible. Do you believe me?" "I do not." Zhang Xiaoxian had long harbored feelings for the demure girl, but had previously been too earnest to express her sentiments. Although there had been no female companions around Housie, one could not deny his cleverness. That evening, after Zhang Xiaoxian briefed Housie on the girl's background, Housie had devised a strategy which proved effective when Zhang Xiaoxian attempted it later that afternoon, eliciting laughter from the demure girl. To suggest that Zhang Xiaoxian abandoned his interest in her would be futile. Even the most formidable of forces could not sway him. "Pray tell, why do you think we are incompatible? Provide me with a reason," he challenged. "Very well, listen closely. Setting aside the question of character, consider this. When the thin monkey came looking for us tonight, she paid no heed. Yet when Housie approached you, she was concerned. What does that signify? There is no connection between you two, not in the slightest." A perfect opportunity for revenge was completely thwarted by her interference. With a sigh, he added, "Now I must explain this to Gang Gu and the others. You will have to handle it when the time comes, as I will not take responsibility. Lin Ye shifted from sitting to squatting, tilting his body as he took another cigarette from Zhang Xiaoxuan. Zhang Xiaoxuan found herself in a state of bemusement. In truth, the demure girl had acted from a place of genuine concern. After all, she had encountered the thin monkey, and Housy's crowd clearly did not embody virtuousness. If she had indeed contacted the authorities, Zhang Xiaoxuan would feel a sense of relief, as it reflected her care for him. With this thought, Zhang Xiaoxuan chuckled. If she did report it, it would mean she has feelings for me, wouldn't it? Hee. Pointing at Lin Ye, she continued, you must be accustomed to being single. Does the prospect of me having a girlfriend irk you? Zhang Xiaoxuan reveled in her astute observation of Lin Ye's thoughts, basking in her triumph. Lin Ye, with a flushed face, held back for a long time. Although jealousy simmered within him, he still managed to utter, humph, it's just a girlfriend. I'll find someone even better. Zhang Xiaoxuan continued to chuckle, amused by Lin Ye's sour grapes mentality. It was quite entertaining how he fabricated a reason to assert that the two were incompatible, despite the absence of any such thing. Glancing around, Zhang Xiaoxuan's laughter subsided, and she inquired, what shall we do next? Noticing her silence, Lin Ye checked his watch and replied, we have 40 minutes left, but all my money is in my book. It seems we won't be having any food. We'll have to go to class on an empty stomach. He then looked up at the heavy, overcast sky, which seemed poised to release its burden. At this moment, Zhang Xiaoxuan felt equally speechless. She had nothing but a lighter and a pack of cigarettes on her, having lost everything else. After pondering for a while, she asked, did you put all your money in your book as well? Lin Ye glanced at her and, with a wry smile, responded, if I had money on me back then, it wouldn't have been the skinny monkey getting beaten, it would have been I. He then stood up, disregarding how Zhang Xiaoxuan interpreted his words, and walked straight out. Ironically, Zhang Xiaoxuan didn't ponder the implications of Lin Ye's statement. Instead, she was preoccupied with thoughts of what to do if she ended up hungry that night. With no solution in sight, she could only wait for school to end and lit a cigarette, reasoning that it might stave off hunger for a while. Missing one meal wouldn't be fatal. Thus, she followed Lin Ye outside. The two hurried back, practically jogging. Lin Ye remarked, why did we run so far just now? Zhang Xiaoxuan replied, no more talking. The more we talk, the hungrier we get. Let us pick up the pace. If we hurry, we might still have time to grab some bread. 20 minutes later, the two appeared disheveled at the school gate. Alongside them was a quiet girl holding 2 lunchboxes. Upon seeing Zhang Xiaoxuan, she smiled sweetly and raised the lunchboxes, saying, I thought you weren't coming back. You must be hungry. Hurry and eat. There should still be time. Lin Ye felt a wave of gratitude wash over him, nearly overwhelmed with the urge to embrace the quiet girl passionately. However, Zhang Xiaoxuan seemed less than pleased, and he thought better of it. Observing Zhang Xiaoxuan's expression, he wondered if such a reaction was truly necessary. In the schoolyard, beside the front playground, 2 large boys sat with lunchboxes in one hand and bottles of water in the other, devouring their meals ravenously. In contrast, one boy sat alone, devoid of companionship. After 5 minutes of eating, just as Lin Ye was finishing, he turned to see the 2 boys gazing intently at one another. Lin Ye comprehended Zhang Xiaoxuan's feelings at that moment. The ardent look in her eyes revealed everything she was thinking. As he studied the quiet girl, he realized he had not paid much attention to her in class. Upon closer examination, he found her strikingly beautiful, with a flawless face devoid of makeup, shoulder-length hair, and clad in a fitted purple outfit. Her figure was well-proportioned, with a noticeable bust that naturally inspired admiration. She was lovely yet understated, graceful yet commanding. I bet you wouldn't dare kiss her, Lin Ye said, wiping a grain of rice from the corner of his mouth with utmost seriousness. Zhang Xiaoxuan, upon hearing this, was immediately incensed, retorting, who says that? Upon finishing his words, he attempted to embrace the demure girl, causing her to startle and push Zhang Xiaoxuan away, exclaiming, we are in school, please do not cause a scene. Zhang Xiaoxuan, realizing the situation, pointed an accusatory finger at Lin Ye, declaring, you scoundrel, you've set me up. Lin Ye discarded his lunchbox and brushed off the remnants from his hands, retorting, I did not deceive, she did. With a glance at the demure girl, he turned and headed towards the classroom. Does he not like me? The demure girl inquired of Zhang Xiaoxuan. It is impossible for him to have feelings for you. For you are the object of my affection, Zhang Xiaoxuan replied. After answering the demure girl's question, she lifted her eyes to catch a glimpse of Lin Ye's retreating figure. Offering a wry smile, her silence conveying a heartfelt apology, I truly had no idea it would unfold this way. A sweet voice floated past her ears, and her pitiable demeanor evoked deep sympathy. The girl was fervently attempting to explain something, and Zhang Xiaoxuan gently patted her hand, assuring her, do not worry. I will take care of everything and will not hold you accountable. After Lin Ye departed, the girl took approximately 2 minutes to recount the events. Confirming Zhang Xiaoxuan's suspicions, the demure girl had indeed called the authorities. Zhang Xiaoxuan found herself torn between joy and concern, offering what comfort she could to the demure girl. However, Lin Ye remained oblivious to all of this as he walked back to the classroom, suddenly recalling that the demure girl's name was Su Jing. Chapter 10. An inescapable situation. Su Jing, true to her name, was as tranquil as a maiden, her academic performance significantly lacking compared to Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan. Memories flooded back of the many girls who had once sought Zhang Xiaoxuan's assistance with their queries, yet during that time, she was solely devoted to her studies, shutting herself off from the world outside, discussing nothing but academics, and dismissing all other matters. This girl was among them. But Zhang Xiaoxuan was particularly diligent when answering her questions, while she otherwise overlooked the rest. It remained unclear whether Zhang Xiaoxuan was simply cautious or preoccupied. But upon joining this class, she had become quite popular among the girls. Even now, there were still many who sought her guidance. Lin Ye lamented his own lack of fortune, feeling as though he had wandered through a garden of blossoms yet remained untouched by any. Following the events of the previous night, Zhang Xiaoxuan had finally extricated herself from the whirlpool of scholarly virtue, rapidly evolving into the role of a romantic lead. In a mere day, their relationship blossomed into that of a couple. When Lin Ye observed Zhang Xiaoxuan and Su Jing entering the classroom hand in hand, he understood that he would be the third wheel for some time to come. Glancing at the clock, with 5 minutes until class began, he approached Zhang Xiaoxuan and said, "Come, I wish to discuss something with you." At that moment, Zhang Xiaoxuan, lost in a reverie as she gazed at Su Jing's silhouette, did not divert her eyes as she replied, "What is it? Speak." Lin Ye, undeterred by her distraction, firmly tugged her outside the classroom, casting a glance at the corridor, relieved that the teacher had yet to arrive. Irritated by being pulled away, Zhang Xiaoxuan grumbled, "Is there something that cannot be said in the classroom? Must we come out here for some fresh air?" "I have some concerns regarding the thin monkey," Lin Ye expressed, revealing a lingering anxiety he had harbored since entering the classroom. "Concern for what? We haven't done anything to him," Zhang Xiaoxuan retorted, turning her head to glance back at the classroom. "I implore you to set aside your romantic sentiments for a moment. The world outside is fraught with peril. Can you not heed my counsel?" Lin Ye found Zhang Xiaoxuan's demeanor utterly intolerable. Was it merely the act of delivering a late-night meal and engaging in a brief conversation that ensnared him so? "Very well, speak your mind," Zhang Xiaoxuan responded. Turning her head, with concern, Lin Ye remarked, "Though it was a bit distant, I did witness the thin monkey being subdued by the police, seemingly apprehended. Might we find ourselves in trouble as well?" Zhang Xiaoxuan pondered for a moment before replying, "Logically, we shouldn't be implicated. They initiated the robbery. And he was the one seeking money. The fault lies entirely with them. We merely retaliated." She sighed. "Regardless, we are already at school. Worrying further is futile." Upon this thought, Lin Ye declared, "What is destined to occur cannot be avoided. Let us return to class. The teacher is arriving." At the end of the corridor, the venerable mathematics instructor approached with measured strides. The two entered the classroom one after the other, still engaged in their discussion. "Why are all our teachers so elderly?" Lin Ye inquired. "What? Do you desire someone younger and more attractive?" Zhang Xiaoxuan teased. "That would certainly enhance our enthusiasm for learning." As the bell rang, the old scholar appeared at the threshold. Lin Ye often mused if the old man timed his steps with precision, as he always arrived so punctually, truly a testament to his lifelong engagement with numbers. Everything proceeded in an orderly fashion, the instructor's voice resonating throughout every corner of the classroom. As the lesson progressed, Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan became engrossed in the exercises, completely forgetting the altercation that had transpired before evening study. Some matters are inevitable, inescapable. Ultimately, they cannot be evaded. With just 10 minutes remaining in the class, Mr. Wang entered, leading the thin monkey and a police officer to the doorway. Upon spotting the thin monkey, Lin Ye instinctively lowered his head, mentally cursing him and his ancestors. Zhang Xiaoxuan, expressing her astonishment, exclaimed loudly enough for even Mr. Wang at the door to hear. The thin monkey, following the sound, pointed at both Zhang Xiaoxuan and Lin Ye, who was slumped over his desk. The two older men exchanged greetings, and Mr. Wang gestured towards Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan, saying, "You two, step outside for a moment." The other students began to murmur, the air thick with speculation about the unfolding situation. Su Jing, after much deliberation, stood up, intending to follow Zhang Xiaoxuan in an attempt to provide an explanation, only to be reprimanded by Mr. Wang. "What are you doing? Sit down and continue with the lesson." Lin Ye quickly gestured for Su Jing to remain seated. In situations like this, explanations often exacerbate the predicament. Fortunately, Mr. Wang managed to redirect her. Zhang Xiaoxuan glanced at Su Jing, then at Lin Ye, and finally at the two individuals accompanying Mr. Wang, shaking her head in resignation as she stepped outside. The police officer shook hands with Mr. Wang, stating, "Thank you for your cooperation. I hope to take these two to the station for a brief questioning." Mr. Wang cautiously inquired, "Will this interfere with tomorrow's classes?" "No. It will only take a moment. After all, someone reported the incident. This is a necessary procedure," the officer replied, glancing at his watch. "Should we notify their parents?" "Look, they are still children." Old Wang protectively shielded Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan behind him, his voice tinged with anxiety. "Rest assured, I will not put them in a difficult position. If it eases your concerns, you may accompany us." The officer paused before continuing, "Of course. I will contact their parents on the way, as these children are all under 18 and their presence is required during the documentation process." "That is reassuring," Old Wang replied, turning to Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan. "Lin Ye, Zhang Xiaoxuan, you must listen carefully to the officers. Be honest about what you have done, and do not fabricate anything if you have done nothing wrong. You must take responsibility for yourselves, for your parents, and for your teachers." After a brief pause, he added, "Once you are released, you must strive for reform. Remember not to repeat the same mistakes, and always honor your parents. Keep up with your studies. You are both promising individuals." Lin Ye was startled by the phrase "strive for reform." What did he mean by that? The officer, too, found the conversation increasingly absurd. The situation had yet to be clarified, and already they were discussing prison. At that moment, Old Wang spoke again. "Officer, will they have any criminal record?" The officer smiled wryly. "There shouldn't be one. We are merely seeking to understand the situation and will provide appropriate guidance based on the severity of the matter. It is not as serious as you might think." Without waiting for a response, he quickly grasped Old Wang's hand, saying, "Thank you for your cooperation. Our vehicle is just downstairs. There is no need for you to accompany us." The officer led the three down the stairs, hastening toward the police car. In the darkness, Lin Ye glanced back and vaguely saw Old Wang reaching out a hand, as if to grasp something. However, as the vehicle distanced itself, that hand slowly fell. On the road, the officer inquired about Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan's home addresses and their parents' contact numbers, jotting them down. Lin Ye turned to the thin monkey beside him and, with a wry smile, asked, "Uncle, is this serious?" "Not really. At most, a couple of years of re-education. And then you'll be released," the officer replied, not lifting his eyes from his notes. Zhang Xiaoxuan, upon hearing this, became anxious, her voice trembling. "No way, uncle. We were just having a fight. It can't lead to that. My dad will surely beat me to death." The officer shot her a stern look. "It won't come to that. A fight is not quite as grave as, say, murder or arson." After a moment, he straightened his posture and said, "Currently, no one is concerned about your fights. But one day, murder and arson may go unchecked, and who will care then? Understand that the consequences can be severe. Therefore, you must be honest and disclose everything without concealment. Detail the entire incident to us in hopes of leniency." The officer's words left Lin Ye and the others trembling with fear, regretting that they had allowed the situation to escalate to this point. Lin Ye, Zhang Xiaoxuan, and the thin monkey sat in the back seat of the police car, the doors locked tight. Even if they were not, they lacked the courage to jump out. Lin Ye sat in the center, with the slender monkey on his right and Zhang Xiaoxuan on his left. Ever since this fellow encountered Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan, he had been sulking, appearing utterly dispirited. Whenever he noticed the slender monkey, he would lower his head, which irked Lin Ye. He jabbed his right elbow forcefully into the monkey's side. The police officer driving, upon observing Lin Ye's actions through the rearview mirror, sternly admonished, "What are you doing? You're already in the police car and still can't behave? You better shape up, or it will be unpleasant for you inside." The slender monkey, startled by Lin Ye's movement, began to whimper, tears streaming down his face as he exclaimed, "Uncle, I don't want to go to jail. Woe is me. I am the victim. Look, my nose is broken." The police officer in the passenger seat, unable to tolerate the incessant crying of the slender monkey, turned around sharply and scolded, "Stop crying. Look at yourself, and you still want to imitate those little ruffians fighting." After approximately 15 minutes, Lin Ye and his companions arrived at the nearby police station, where they sat on benches awaiting further instructions while the police officers made phone calls to inform their families. Chapter 11. Court appearance. In those days, mobile phones were not yet widespread. They were exceedingly expensive, and the calling fees were charged both ways, a practice known as two-way charging. Some individuals, eager to show off, would spend 2,000 or 3,000 yuan on a phone. only to frequently suffer the embarrassment of having their service suspended. While there were numerous mobile phones available on the market, pagers were also quite popular at that time. However, returning calls was cumbersome, as one had to scour the world for a public telephone. Lin Ye's uncle had once gifted him a phone, which he proudly displayed at school until Mr. Wang caught him in the act and confiscated it for 2 days, sternly forbidding him from bringing such a device to school again. Thus, Lin Ye kept it at home as a mere ornament. Nowadays, nearly everyone possesses a mobile phone, with some individuals owning more than 2 or 3. The pager and mobile phone have succumbed to the tide of societal progress and faded into obscurity. Setting aside idle chatter, Lin Ye's father had been engaged in business partnerships during those years, thriving amidst the hustle. To facilitate communication with clients, he reluctantly purchased an old Baidu mobile phone. Zhang Xiaoxuan mentioned that her father owned a processing factory and had a mobile phone as well, a Motorola, as she recalled. Lin Ye teased, "I didn't realize you were so wealthy. It turns out your family is quite well off." Zhang Xiaoxuan chuckled, modestly dismissing the compliment. Lin Ye's parents were the first to arrive at the police station. Like all fathers, upon seeing his son, Lin's father was ready to deliver a slap, his anger palpable in his eyes. Lin Ye quickly ducked to the side, grateful that a police officer intervened just in time, advising, "We haven't clarified the situation yet, and this is not the place for you to discipline your child." Lin Ye felt a pang of discomfort at these words, pondering whether, once they stepped outside, every place would become a venue for his father's reprimands. Zhang Xiaoxuan, witnessing Lin Ye being scolded, pointed at him and burst into laughter, exclaiming, "My father wouldn't do that." Just as she was about to continue her teasing, she turned to look behind her and, before she could react, received a swift kick to her backside. Lin Ye, hearing the commotion, peeked out to see a middle-aged man resembling Zhang Xiaoxuan standing behind her, accompanied by a kind-looking woman who appeared genuinely concerned. Zhang Xiaoxuan is now firmly seated on the ground instead of the bench. Upon recognizing the visitor, she immediately burst into tears, calling out, "Mom." Lin Ye's expression darkened instantly. The two were escorted to separate rooms, each accompanied by their respective parents. The family of the thin monkey had yet to arrive, and when the police officer inquired about his contact information, he peculiarly provided a landline number, suggesting that communication via landline might be somewhat slow. Upon entering the room, Lin Ye felt as though he had stepped into a prison. He was restless, and the prominent phrase on the wall caught his eye: "Confess for leniency, resist for severity." A smaller warning beneath it read, "Prohibition against the use of unlawful violence for interrogation." The room was rather cramped, containing only a desk, a lamp, and a few chairs, nothing more. The police officer gestured for Lin Ye to sit at the table, smiled reassuringly, and said, "Do not be anxious. We will merely discuss some matters and go over the events that transpired. Your parents are here to listen, but they cannot answer on your behalf. Remember, you must answer all questions honestly, without concealment." After glancing at Lin Ye's parents, who nodded in understanding, Lin Ye collected his thoughts and recounted the entire sequence of events. Hearing that her son had been diligently studying at school, yet faced such circumstances caused Lin Ye's mother to weep softly. "What is your relationship with Zhaogang?" The police officer began to outline Lin Ye's statement and, after reviewing it, inquired further. Lin Ye's father, sensing something amiss, interjected, "We do not know that person." The police officer turned to Lin Ye's parents and said, "Please refrain from speaking." He then directed his gaze back to Lin Ye and asked, "What is your relationship with Zhaogang?" "He's a friend. I just met him recently," Lin Ye replied quietly. "Just met? Never seen him before?" The officer pressed, staring intently into Lin Ye's eyes. Lin Ye, though filled with trepidation, maintained his composure and answered softly, "Yes, we met for the first time last month, and I hadn't been in contact until I saw him again last night." "Where did you meet?" The officer continued to jot down notes. "At a friend's house," Lin Ye responded, his voice trembling. "Which friend? Where do they live? What is their name?" "A childhood friend named Li Hao, who lives not far from my home," Lin Ye explained. "How did Li Hao know Zhaogang?" "I don't know that either," Lin Ye admitted, feeling overwhelmed by the barrage of questions regarding Zhaogang, as if he were being targeted. The police officer finally finished recording, reviewed the notes, and said to Lin Ye, "That will be all." Lin Ye's parents sighed in relief, reassured that their son was likely not in serious trouble. Meanwhile, in the room where Zhang Xiaoxuan was situated, the police officer asked, "What is your relationship with Daozi and Wang Shi, the thin monkey?" "They should be friends. I've seen them together," she responded. "How many times prior to this?" "About 3 or 4 times, but whenever I saw them outside of school, I would take a detour." The police officer diligently noted a few details in his notebook before continuing to inquire, "What is the knife called?" Zhang Xiaoxian pondered for a moment and replied, "I don't know. I only know others call it a knife." but I do not know its true name. The officer closed his notebook and said, "All right. You may leave now." Zhang Xiaoxuan's father hastily stood up and asked, "Comrade, is this child in any trouble? Engaging in a brawl, causing a disturbance, logically speaking. He should spend a few days in detention. However, he is still a student and has not harmed anyone. A little education would suffice," the officer remarked. The three were escorted out of the room, where Lin Ye's family had been waiting outside. "You little rascal. You said you were bullied, but didn't he utter a word when you got home? I was completely unaware, left in the dark. Now, a fight has ensued. You are still agitated, and here we are. It seems you are not embarrassed enough," Zhang Xiaoxuan's father exclaimed as he stepped out of the room, almost lashing out at him. But thankfully, his mother shielded him from the blow. The officer found amusement in Zhang Xiaoxuan's father's reaction. "Comrade, children should not be educated this way. We must teach them mutual respect and love, to abide by the law. They cannot resort to violence to prove their bravery. They should focus on their studies and become useful members of society in the future." Yes, you are right, comrade," he replied, turning to Zhang Xiaoxian and admonishing. "Did you hear that? No more reckless behavior in the future." Zhang Xiaoxian nodded eagerly, casting an envious glance towards Lin Ye, who was being inquired about by his father, asking if he was hurt, if he had eaten dinner that night. Zhang Xiaoxuan's father glanced at the officer and asked, "Can we leave now? Please wait a moment. We still need to finalize a statement. Once it is ready, you will only need to sign it to be on your way," the officer replied, returning to his work. Disregarding the irritable Zhang Xiaoxuan's father, Zhang Xiaoxuan's father sighed and sat down, pulling Zhang Xiaoxian to sit beside him. Lin Ye expected another round of scolding. Yet to his surprise, he witnessed a scene of paternal affection instead, filled with inquiries and warmth. Lin Ye felt puzzled, thinking that this sudden change in temperament was quite astonishing. Seeing that Zhang Xiaoxuan's father was no longer losing his temper, Lin's father stepped forward and offered a cigarette, saying, "Stop blaming the children. They are still young and are also victims." Zhang Xiaoxuan's father lifted his head to regard the other man, accepting the cigarette and preparing to light it, only to be interrupted by the officer exclaiming, "Smoking is not permitted here." He then gestured for Lin's father to follow him outside to smoke. Chapter 12. The invitation from Old Wang and the time it took to smoke a cigarette. They exchanged who knows how many words, and upon returning to the room, the two began to refer to each other as brothers. Zhang Xiaoxuan's father remarked, "Look at these two children. Although Xiaoxian is taller, he appears frail, as if he hasn't eaten. Your son, on the other hand, is too thin. I suggest finding a place for these two to exercise. Merely enhancing their academic knowledge is insufficient. Physical fitness is also a crucial subject." Mr. Lin nodded and remarked, "Indeed. In the past, we were quite strict with this boy's studies. Now, as you say he has grown up, he hardly seems to reflect that at all. This has led to others bullying him as if it were a game, and this cannot continue." Just as Mr. Lin was about to say more, a door to one of the inquiry rooms swung open, revealing a thin, dark-skinned woman accompanied by a frail boy, presumably his mother. Upon their emergence, the mother, with tears glistening in her eyes, implored, "Comrade, please help us. My child is still young and naive. His father died in a car accident 2 years ago, leaving us to rely solely on each other. If anything were to happen to him, how could I face his deceased father?" As she spoke, tears streamed down her face. Both Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxian, upon seeing the frail boy's mother, were initially incredulous. After all, Class 8 of the first year at the school was considered a class for the elite. How could such a family belong to it? A single-parent household? How could they afford the exorbitant school fees? The frail boy was also weeping profusely, tugging at his mother's clothing, his tears relentless. It was only later that Lin Ye learned that after the boy's father was killed, a sum of compensation was awarded, which provided considerable assistance to their family at that time. In his final moments, the father had implored the boy's mother to ensure their son grew into a person of worth, to study diligently at any cost. Ultimately, to fulfill her husband's dying wish. The boy's mother sought help from many, bestowing numerous gifts, and succeeded in enrolling him in a prestigious high school, hoping for a fresh start in an enriching academic environment. However, as is often the case, reality did not align with aspirations. Once enrolled in Xinguang High School, the boy succumbed to envy and competition, completely disregarding the notion of diligent study. The police officers brought forth 3 statements, meticulously comparing them to confirm the events that had transpired. They then addressed the gathered individuals, stating, "The matter has been established. If there are no objections, you may sign here." Lin Ye, Zhang Xiaoxian, and the frail boy completed their signatures in turn. The officer then turned to the boy's mother and said, "Wang Shi is suspected of robbery and extortion. Although he is not yet 18 and thus lacks full criminal responsibility, some form of labor education is unavoidable. At that time, everyone understood the implications of labor education. Spending 2 years in such a facility could ruin one's future, rendering one nearly unemployable due to a criminal record. Upon hearing this, the boy's mother felt her strength drain away, nearly collapsing. The officer quickly stepped forward to assist her, saying, "I haven't finished speaking. There's no need to rush." After helping the boy's mother to a seat, the officer glanced at Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan and continued, "Unless the involved parties choose not to pursue responsibility, we will consider Wang Shi as a first-time offender with a good attitude towards confession, allowing for a more lenient disposition focused on educational criticism." Upon hearing this, the mother of the slender monkey comprehended the situation, promptly rising from her seat and tugging her son to kneel before Lin Ye and the others, bowing her head repeatedly and uttering, "We implore you, we beseech your mercy. Save us, mother and child." Witnessing this, Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan's mother was already in tears, and upon seeing the slender monkey's mother kneeling and pleading for assistance, she hurried forward to help her up, saying, "It's quite all right. There is no need for concern. We shall not pursue this matter." Lin Ye's mother echoed her sentiment. "Forgiveness, forgiveness, we shall certainly forgive." Raising a child alone is fraught with hardship. Unable to bear the sight, Lin Ye discreetly pulled Zhang Xiaoxuan aside, noticing her quietly wiping away tears. He too felt an ache in his heart. To be subjected to 2 years of labor education for a mere scuffle over a bit of money seemed excessively harsh. It was only years later that Lin Ye learned that robbery was one of the gravest offenses, where even the theft of a single yuan could result in a sentence of 4 to 5 years. Standing in a corner, Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan were at a loss, when Lin's father turned to them and scolded, "What are you two standing there for? Hurry and tell the police that you will not pursue this." Deep down, they understood that compassion resides within every heart. They had inflicted little harm upon the slender monkey, and having tricked him into a beating, Lin Ye felt a pang of guilt at this scene. Dear officer, can we not pursue this? If none of this had happened, we could have been good classmates," Zhang Xiaoxuan suggested. Upon hearing this, the slender monkey glanced up, gratitude shining in his eyes towards Zhang Xiaoxuan and Lin Ye. The mother of the slender monkey nodded fervently at Zhang Xiaoxuan, expressing, thank you, child." The subsequent events unfolded with relative ease. The mother's profuse gratitude, the police officer's admonitions, and the agreeable nods from Lin Ye, Zhang Xiaoxuan, and the slender monkey marked the pleasant conclusion of their first experience in a police station. After offering her heartfelt thanks, the mother of the slender monkey departed with her son. Zhang Xiaoxian's father waved his hand graciously, stating, "Come on, old Lin, I'll drive you back." Lin Ye's father responded with equal politeness, "Oh, how can we impose? Old Zhang, please take your child home. You must be exhausted after all this time." Lin Ye tugged at his father's sleeve and softly remarked, "Dad, shall we go eat something? I'm hungry." Zhang Xiaoxian chimed into her father, "Dad, I'm hungry too." What was initially meant to be a courteous exchange turned into an unavoidable meal invitation. "All right then, old Zhang, since you have your car, let us go out to eat." The two fathers led the way, exchanging pleasantries and cigarettes, while the two mothers chatted and laughed in the middle. Meanwhile, Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxian discussed how the slender monkey had come to join Class 8. However, their conversation yielded no conclusions. Just as they turned a corner, an elegant Mitsubishi sedan appeared, and Zhang Xiaoxuan's father casually retrieved his keys, unlocking the car doors. Lin Ye leaned toward Zhang Xiaoxian and whispered, "Does your father know how wealthy you are?" They randomly chose a restaurant to settle down in. Naturally, the adults indulged in a couple of drinks while Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxian could only partake in soft drinks. Amidst the clinking of glasses and the ebb and flow of laughter, the camaraderie flourished as they dined heartily, each pledging to visit one another's homes, as if the two families were destined to become in-laws. After Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxian, feeling a tinge of boredom, retreated to the restroom for their second smoke, the two fathers finally rose unsteadily to settle the bill. Naturally, the question of who would pay led to a flurry of polite refusals, ultimately resulting in Zhang Xiaoxian's father, with his bulging wallet, footing the bill. Lin's father, vexed, remarked that the coins in his own wallet were fewer than those in his opponent's, insisting on seeking a place to exchange for change. Vowing to return for a rematch, Lin Ye hurriedly grasped his father's arm and shared a knowing glance with Zhang Xiaoxian, before swiftly slipping into a taxi with his mother, vanishing in an instant. Lin Ye was oblivious to how Zhang Xiaoxian and her family made their way back. But by the time he arrived home, it was nearing midnight. He collapsed into bed, slipping into a dreamless slumber. Upon waking the next morning, he discovered 50 yuan on his bedside table, presumably left by his mother. Without inquiry, he hastily consumed a few bites of breakfast, mounted his bicycle, and pedaled straight to school. Upon entering the classroom, Lin Ye sensed an unusual silence, as though something were amiss. Zhang Xiaoxuan sat quietly in her seat, engrossed in her reading, not even glancing up. Cheerfully, he approached his desk, organized his study materials, and casually turned to Wang Lirong in the back, smilingly inquired, "May I borrow your class notes from yesterday?" Notes? Wang Lirong seemed startled by Lin Ye's request, quickly rummaging through her desk to retrieve 3 notebooks: English, politics, and mathematics. "Which one do you need?" The sight of her flustered search left Lin Ye somewhat bewildered. Was such formality necessary? This was entirely out of character for her. Had she transformed, becoming increasingly benevolent with age? He selected the mathematics notebook, a smile gracing his face as he expressed his gratitude. At 7:45, the preparatory bell rang, and Mr. Wang ushered in Su Jing, whose tear-streaked face revealed she had evidently been crying recently. Lin Ye cast a glance at Zhang Xiaoxuan, who remained immersed in her reading. Mr. Wang approached Zhang Xiaoxuan and gently tapped her desk. Startled, she jolted upright, her eyes still hazy with sleep. Lin Ye couldn't help but chuckle at the sight, but soon realized he was the only one laughing. The others were stifling their amusement. With class monitor Guofei trembling as he buried his face in his hands, Lin Ye surveyed the room, noting that most shared this peculiar restraint. When had Mr. Wang acquired such control over laughter? He decided to suppress his own mirth, lowering his head to transcribe notes. "Lin Ye, you two, step outside for a moment. The rest of you, continue with your self-study." After issuing the command, Mr. Wang ambled out of the classroom. Confused, Lin Ye exchanged glances with Zhang Xiaoxuan, suddenly recalling the events of the previous night, and a sense of foreboding washed over him. The two of them exited, taking 2 steps that felt like 3, and before long, Lin Ye caught sight of Mr. Wang's retreating figure. Old Wang turned around and said, "Let us go. We shall discuss it downstairs." Lin Ye inquired, "Teacher Wang, where are we going to talk?" "You will know once we arrive," Old Wang replied, not looking back as he strode forward. Chapter 13. Reporting the incident. Oh no, fighting and brawling, being taken away by the police. This could lead to the guillotine. Lin Ye's heart tightened, causing his footsteps to slow naturally. Zhang Xiaoxuan, on the other hand, wore an expression of indifference, yawning continuously and appearing lethargic. Noticing Lin Ye lagging behind, she waved her hand dismissively and continued to follow Old Wang without uttering a word. Lin Ye glanced at Zhang Xiaoxuan, pondering whether she was genuinely foolish or merely pretending. Could it be that sleepiness had dulled her memory, making her forget the events of the previous night? He trailed behind slowly, turning down the stairs and walking a distance before Old Wang brought them to a halt in front of his dormitory. He produced a key and said, "Come in. At this hour, no one will be around." Upon entering, Lin Ye surveyed the surroundings and sighed in relief that they were not headed to the principal's office. Following Zhang Xiaoxuan inside, the room was immaculate, furnished with a bed, a few chairs, and a simple desk, all pristine and unblemished. Old Wang gestured for Lin Ye to sit with Zhang Xiaoxuan and then moved a chair to sit in front of them. He took out a pack of cigarettes, extracted 2, and placed them before them. Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan were taken aback. "This teacher, we don't smoke." Zhang Xiaoxuan finally awakened from her stupor. Lin Ye felt a bead of sweat forming on his forehead, questioning what kind of situation they had landed in. With a loud thud, Old Wang slammed the cigarette box onto the table. "Don't know how? You two are fighting and brawling, and you've gotten entangled with delinquents outside of school? Are you not worried about being taken away by the police? Are you also dating in school?" "Teacher, I am not in a relationship," Lin Ye muttered softly. "And what about him?" Old Wang pointed at Zhang Xiaoxuan, asking, "What is the situation with Su Jing?" Zhang Xiaoxuan lowered her head, wearing an expression of hopelessness, awaiting her judgment. Old Wang lit a cigarette and continued, "I have been teaching for nearly 20 years and have never encountered first-year high school students fighting, ending up in the police station, or being in relationships. I wonder why you don't just fly up to the heavens and soar alongside the sun." Lin Ye found Old Wang's words amusing, while Zhang Xiaoxuan chimed in, "No, we didn't intend to fight. It was that person who instigated us. If we hadn't retaliated, we would have certainly been the ones getting beaten." Her voice trailed off to a whisper. Lin Ye remained silent, thinking to himself that Zhang Xiaoxuan had the audacity to say such things. "Indeed, is this your justification for fighting?" Old Wang's beard quivered as he continued. "Now the entire first year knows about you. You've become celebrities. Before today ends, the whole school will be aware. The principal has been asking for you." Lin Ye's heart sank. This matter could escalate significantly. On a minor scale, everyone might dismiss it as if it never happened, continuing their daily routines without any impact. However, On a larger scale, the consequences could be severe: recorded infractions, disciplinary actions deemed lenient, fighting, causing disturbances, and the potential for expulsion could not be ruled out. Lin Ye cautiously lifted his gaze to glance at old Wang, who had just extinguished his cigarette. In a hurry, he retrieved a Hilton brand cigarette from his pocket to offer to old Wang. With a sidelong glance, old Wang remarked, "Didn't you say you wouldn't tea?" Lin Ye, with a naive smile, replied, "This is for you. See, it's still in its packaging." He thought to himself how fortunate it was that his mother had given him 50 yuan that morning, intending to buy a good pack of cigarettes to alleviate his anxiety, which unexpectedly proved useful here. Lin Ye presented the cigarette box with both hands, approaching old Wang with great respect. Old Wang glanced at it and acknowledged that it was indeed freshly opened. "I'll give you credit for your thoughtfulness. You may set it down." Zhang Xiaoxuan watched Lin Ye's actions, torn between laughter and restraint, her hands fumbling in her pockets for some time. Lin Ye promptly nudged Zhang Xiaoxuan with his foot, and she finally reacted, producing a lighter to ignite the cigarette for old Wang. Old Wang took a puff and exhaled slowly. This is quite good." Lin Ye beamed. "I specifically bought it for you. It's a sure choice." Old Wang playfully tapped Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan on their foreheads. "Spare me your flattery. This matter isn't so easily brushed aside. The authorities are pursuing it closely, and a resolution is inevitable." He flicked the ash from his cigarette and continued. However, Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan felt a surge of tension as the nuances of societal dealings had been addressed. It was now up to old Wang to pass judgment. Old Wang raised his head and looked at Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan. "Considering this is your first offense, and acknowledging that no one is perfect, your academic performance is commendable, and you generally behave well. I have put my reputation on the line to plead on your behalf, which is why I was able to halt this incident." Upon hearing this, Lin Ye understood. The school leaders were likely unaware of the full extent of the situation. Last night, the thin monkey had been taken directly to their classroom by the police, coincidentally while old Wang was inspecting the classroom. The security guard, probably having been out drinking, had left the school gate open without anyone inquiring. The only individuals aware of the incident were Lin Ye's classmates and the thin monkey. It was evident that old Wang was trying to intimidate them. If the school leaders were truly informed, they wouldn't be discussing it here. Yet, at this juncture, the necessary formalities still needed to be observed. Lin Ye quickly stood up to pour water, showing great courtesy. Zhang Xiaoxuan, having missed the opportunity to pour the water, sniffled and said, "Thank you, teacher." Old Wang extinguished his cigarette and said, "Enough with the thanks. If anyone deserves gratitude, it's you for not escalating the situation or causing harm. Go back and write a self-reflection report to submit to me for accountability. This matter ends here. It must not be disclosed externally, nor should you associate with outsiders." Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan promptly stood up, grinning broadly. "Certainly, certainly." Old Wang pointed at Zhang Xiaoxuan. "Leave the cigarettes here. Smoking is prohibited on school grounds." Zhang Xiaoxuan was taken aback, quickly retrieving half a pack of cigarettes from her pocket and placing it on the desk, exclaiming, "Teacher, how did you know?" Old Wang waved his hand to interrupt her. "You think I'm unaware of you? I have already gathered information regarding Su Jing's situation. It was indeed her who reported the incident. She is a good child, and you must not lead her astray. Do you understand?" Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan hurriedly bowed and retreated, acknowledging, "Understood, understood." As they were about to leave, they overheard old Wang muttering to himself, "To think a mediocre student, referring to that skinny monkey, would drag my two high-achieving students down with him. How naive." Old Wang, the Chinese language teacher, was a decent man, protective of his students, exuding a warm and amiable aura. He once boldly claimed that had he been born in ancient times, he would have certainly achieved the rank of a top scholar. However, after enduring years in the education sector, he finally attained the prestigious title of a senior teacher, which he considered a personal accomplishment. The first 2 periods were taught by old Wang, and the conversation had already stretched well beyond half the class. When Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan appeared at the classroom door, the previously lively atmosphere gradually dulled. Observing this, Zhang Xiaoxuan burst into laughter, exclaiming, "The teacher hasn't even arrived yet." Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan took their respective seats, and Lin Ye casually flipped open his Chinese textbook, only to close it again, repeating this out of sheer boredom. To his right, Zhang Su leaned closer with a grin, saying, "Lin, I'll just follow you from now on." Lost in thought, Lin Ye absent-mindedly asked, "Follow me for what?" "Brother, you're so impressive, especially in fights." Lin Ye didn't catch the rest of Zhang Su's words and waved his hand, signaling him to hold his tongue as the teacher entered. Old Wang cheerfully walked into the classroom, accompanied by a wave of acrid smoke. This old man certainly smoked a lot. Please turn to, not that, but to page 37. I trust that after previewing the lesson for half a period, you all have grasped the overall essence of the text. Now, I shall elucidate the core of this article. Chinese lessons tend to be tedious, filled with poetry, selected passages, and the literary brilliance of renowned authors from various countries. It all boils down to deciphering the meaning of particular words within sentences, the function of certain sentences within paragraphs, and how each paragraph emphasizes the entirety of the text. One can only imagine how the author would feel, rising from the grave to witness his work being dissected in such a manner. Perhaps during his writing, he didn't ponder these intricacies, or maybe he simply aimed to fill pages, given that his remuneration was contingent on word count. As the bell for the end of class rang, old Wang closed the book and announced, "Class dismissed," before stepping out with his cigarette case. Lin Ye mused that this old man could truly smoke. He probably needed at least 2 packs a day, yet he never mentioned taking care of his health. Turning to Zhang Xiaoxuan, Lin Ye noticed that this fellow was still diligently taking notes. He was the only one in class who took notes during a Chinese lesson, using a pen that was twice as plentiful as Lin Ye's. However, he consistently ranked first in the Chinese preliminary exams, earning the admiration of Lin Ye and the others. Bored, Lin Ye stood up, intending to strike up a conversation with him, as he still needed to visit Housie and express his gratitude. Before he could reach Zhang Xiaoxian, Su Jing tossed him a note. Lin Ye was taken aback. Was this a declaration of affection? How audacious! Zhang Xiaoxian was momentarily taken aback. She opened the note, glanced at Su Jing, and smiled back at her, swiftly jotting down a few strokes before tossing the note back. Lin Ye thought to himself, what on earth are you two up to? This is a classroom. Can't you indulge in idle chatter outside? Although the teacher was absent, only a handful of students remained in the room. Lin Ye turned to look outside. Indeed, there was Wang Laotu puffing away, and very few had ventured out. At that moment, the class monitor, Guofei, stood up, closed his book, and walked outside. Initially, Lin Ye paid little attention, but as he observed Guofei pulling Wang Laotu aside until they were out of sight, concern began to creep in. This must be a report. Chapter 14. The class monitor, however, Lin Ye's anxiety was unwarranted. It was Zhang Xiaoxian who should be worried. She witnessed the scene with a distressed expression, completely ignoring the note that Su Jing had thrown her way. Turning to Lin Ye, she appeared troubled, to which Lin Ye casually muttered an expletive under his breath. This situation held little significance for Lin Ye. After all, Zhang Xiaoxian was merely risking her reputation in matters of romance. He was unconcerned, believing as long as he remained uninvolved, it would not affect him. In any case, it was she who was entangled in a romantic affair, not him. As the class bell rang, Guofei and Wang Laotu had yet to return. Zhang Xiaoxian cast a worried glance at Lin Ye, while Su Jing maintained her silence, and a group of students looked around, eagerly awaiting Wang Laotu's return for the spectacle. Lin Ye lowered his head, feigning deep thought, silently repeating to himself, "Do not involve me, do not involve me." Finally, Guofei entered with an air of ease, followed closely by Wang Laotu, who carried a whiff of smoke. Wang Laotu approached the podium, cleared his throat, and announced, "Attention, everyone. Class monitor Guofei has just discussed his personal issues with me. He believes he can no longer fulfill the responsibilities of class monitor due to academic commitments and has voluntarily resigned from the position. He has personally recommended Lin Ye as his successor. Now, does anyone have any objections?" Wang Laotu turned towards Lin Ye, and Zhang Xiaoxian also looked his way, while Lin Ye shifted his gaze between Wang Laotu and Zhang Xiaoxian. A profound silence enveloped the room. No one uttered a word. 2 seconds passed. Well, since there are no objections, we shall provisionally appoint Lin Ye as class monitor, overseeing all related duties. Let's welcome him. Applause erupted, accompanied by stifled laughter. What was this? Lin Ye had never envisioned that he would one day rise to a position of authority, second only to one amidst 40. What an immense honor. Henceforth, various personalities would have to heed his commands, and events would be orchestrated under his direction, with hygiene and discipline falling under his jurisdiction. The prospect was delightful. Perhaps he might even attain the title of an exemplary class officer. Just imagining the joy it would bring to his father if he heard about this filled him with glee. Throughout the entire class, Lin Ye absorbed nothing. He was too preoccupied with his own merriment. It seemed Guofei had exerted considerable effort in his previous bid for class monitor, delivering speeches, managing sanitation, and even rallying votes from classmates in his spare time. Yet here was Lin Ye, securing the title without uttering a single word. The bell marking the end of class rang without Lin Ye's notice, until old Wang habitually approached and rapped on Lin Ye's desk, prompting him to awaken from his reverie. As the newly appointed class monitor, shall we step outside for a brief chat? Old Wang observed Lin Ye with a half-smile. Lin Ye, feeling somewhat buoyant, replied, "Yes, yes. Of course," and rose to follow Old Wang out. At this moment, it was the break between the second and third classes, and students had flocked to the playground, eagerly awaiting the commencement of the exercise routine. As the music began to play, Old Wang lit a cigarette. "Do you know why you were chosen as the class monitor?" he inquired. "Because I possess charisma?" Lin Ye smiled awkwardly. Old Wang looked at Lin Ye and exhaled a cloud of smoke in his direction. "Why not say your ancestors' graves are smoking too? I may be old now, but in my youth, I was far more handsome than you." The unexpected jest, combined with the smoke, caused Lin Ye to cough persistently. "Cough, cough, sir, why is that?" To prevent others from overhearing, Old Wang pulled Lin Ye back into the classroom, found a chair, and sat down. After a moment's reflection, he said, "Lin Ye, you are an intelligent young man. It is inconsequential if you associate with Zhang Xiaoxuan, as long as your academic performance does not falter. Should your grades decline, I will prohibit you from participating in all school activities." After flicking the ash from his cigarette, Old Wang continued, "The recent fighting incident is widely known among the students in our class. Wang Shi, the homeroom teacher, is aware of it, while the school administration remains largely uninformed. However, given the current developments, it is only a matter of time before the administration learns of the entire affair. I personally intervened and chose not to report it, as I do not wish to place blame on you, nor do I intend to absolve you." Hearing this, Lin Ye thought to himself that the old man was indeed scheming, harboring no good intentions, and the notion of writing a self-reflection seemed merely a ruse for his own amusement. Old Wang glanced at Lin Ye and continued, "Do you know why Guofei sought me out?" Lin Ye shook his head, responding, "Did he come to resign from the position of class monitor?" Old Wang sighed. He claimed he was here to resign from the position, but in truth, he came to report on the romantic entanglements within your class. "How could that be?" Lin Ye quickly defended himself. "Let us not dwell on that. There's bound to be trouble regarding the fight, correct? They say that fighting outside is inconsequential, and being taken to the police station is also trivial. Returning to school and being called by a teacher is nothing to fret over. What is the big deal?" Zhang Xiaoxuan and Su Jing's relationship should have been addressed by the class monitor, yet they prefer to avoid complications, thinking that informing the teacher might not lead to any serious repercussions. Hence, Guofei decided to step down, and I thought of you. Surely you wouldn't claim ignorance of who in the class is dating, would you? The fight has occurred, the police have been involved, and I managed to intervene in that matter. It stands to reason that you should assist me with these class-related issues." Old Wang exhaled a plume of smoke, revealing the cunning demeanor of a seasoned fox. Lin Ye, at this juncture, comprehended the ulterior motives behind the imposition of the class monitor title upon him. He slumped into the chair, realizing it was not a transaction, but rather a blatant deception. What kind of teacher would manipulate their students in such a manner? Wang Laotu discarded his cigarette, but the sound of his leather shoes echoing with a squeak. "Enough of that. Let me reiterate, do not let your studies fall behind. At the end of the year, I shall present you with the title of Outstanding Class Officer. It will not be in vain for you. Furthermore, as the class monitor, you must ensure that the cleanliness of the classroom is maintained. Sweep up that cigarette butt and ash in a moment." Lin Ye stared vacantly at the cigarette butt, realizing that this situation had entirely ensnared him. However, there was no turning back. The die was cast, and he merely responded with an absent-minded With a sharp slap, a box of Hilton cigarettes was tossed in front of Lin Ye. "From now on, no smoking on school grounds. Should I catch you again, all will be confiscated." Wang Laotu paid no heed to Lin Ye's reaction. Instead, he touched his nose, pinched a cigarette, and walked out. Lin Ye raised his head to watch Wang Laotu depart, only to notice that he had a cigarette dangling from each ear. Lin Ye picked up the cigarette box and opened it, discovering that it contained just 2 remaining cigarettes. Chapter 15. Ant and Bread with a Grimace. Lin Ye picked up the broom to sweep the cigarette, but while classmates returned one after another. While most were indifferent, Zhang Xiaoxuan burst into laughter upon seeing him, exclaiming, "Oh, Lin the class monitor, are you really doing this manual labor? Come, let me assist you." Lin Ye, filled with frustration, flung the broom away. Unfortunately, Zhang Xiaoxuan sidestepped just in time, and it struck Su Jing on the forehead. With a yelp, Su Jing crouched down. Lin Ye hurried over to check on her, while Zhang Xiaoxuan shielded Su Jing and blew on her forehead for a long moment, asking, "Are you all right?" Su Jing slowly opened her eyes and smiled sweetly. "I'm fine, it just grazed me." Zhang Xiaoxuan turned to Lin Ye and said, "What is the fuss? It was just a joke." Feeling quite embarrassed, Lin Ye replied, "I'm truly sorry, Su Jing. I intended to hit this guy, but it seems I overstepped. I'll treat you to dinner tonight as an apology." Upon hearing Lin Ye's apology, Zhang Xiaoxuan's expression softened, and she asked Su Jing, "Are you really okay? Should we take you to the school infirmary?" Su Jing blinked and said, "I'm really fine. If I went to the infirmary for such a minor bump, I'd be made of clay." Lin Ye chuckled. "As long as you're all right, that's what matters." "Zhang Xiaoxuan, I have something to discuss with you. Let us step outside." Lin Ye pulled Zhang Xiaoxuan downstairs. While she protested, Hey, where are we going? I still have an injured party here." The school's back playground bathroom was a notorious smoking spot for many students. Though Lin Ye seldom visited or smoked at school, he was aware of its reputation. On their way, Lin Ye divided the 2 cigarettes, and Zhang Xiaoxuan, upon seeing they were Hilton, laughed. "Did the old man return your cigarettes?" "Yes, he returned just 2. He smoked the rest himself," Lin Ye replied with a wry smile. "You dare smoke just those 2? Aren't you afraid he'll catch you in the act and use it against us?" "The old man said we couldn't bring cigarettes, but he never mentioned we couldn't smoke them. Besides, I consider this erasing the evidence. Once I smoke them, it's over. Those who constantly associate with Wang Laotu should learn something from him." Lin Ye continued walking ahead, ignoring the still loitering Zhang Xiaoxuan. Zhang Xiaoxuan suddenly understood. "Oh, I see." She quickly ran to catch up with Lin Ye. Halfway through their smoke, Lin Ye recounted the entire sequence of events to Zhang Xiaoxuan. Zhang Xiaoxuan exclaimed with indignation, "This old man is truly cunning. His scheming is exceptional." Lin Ye exhaled a plume of smoke and responded, "Experience does have its merits. Old Wang has consumed more salt than we have rice. We are still too young. We ought to learn more." After finishing her cigarette, Zhang Xiaoxuan elegantly flicked the butt, which fell into a cesspool. "I don't understand," she pondered. "If this is all a scheme, then why didn't he scheme for me to become class monitor instead of you?" Lin Ye extinguished his cigarette and replied, "Are you genuinely oblivious or just pretending? Su Jing clearly shows signs of affection towards you. If they were to appoint you as class monitor, what would others think? Wouldn't the entire class be swept away by romance?" Zhang Xiaoxuan suddenly grasped the situation, exclaiming, "Oh, I see. That old man is using you to suppress me, preventing romantic escapades from spreading in our class. What a clever tactic." The third period was physical education, a welcome reprieve from the confines of the classroom, allowing students to engage in exuberant activities, whether sitting, lying down, or freely moving about, offering a much-needed stretch to their rigid bodies. However, the PE teacher was quite concerned about Lin Ye and his peers' physical well-being, often assigning them strenuous activities. The boys would run a kilometer, while the girls would run 800 meters, followed by various kicking exercises, push-ups, and relay races. By the end of the class, they would be utterly exhausted. At this point, Old Wang would align himself with the PE teacher, reminding the students that good health is the foundation of their academic endeavors. Without a robust constitution, all their studies would be in vain, as physical education also contributes to their overall scores in the college entrance examination. Neither Lin Ye nor Zhang Xiaoxuan were particularly fearful of this light exercise. Most boys fared reasonably well, but the girls were another story altogether. When they returned to the classroom, very few students remained. Naturally, they had to shed any excess items before PE. The teacher had instructed them to find a place for their keys, lighters, pendants, and even watches, forbidding them from bringing anything onto the playground. Lin Ye entered the classroom to stow his bicycle keys and lighter, while Zhang Xiaoxuan busied herself with removing the guanine pendant and watch from around her neck. Just as they were about to rise, Wang Lirong timidly approached Lin Ye, producing a note. Lin Ye glanced at it and recognized it as a leave request, mentally noting that it was rather disrespectful for someone to request leave just after he had been appointed class monitor. With a warm smile, Lin Ye cautiously inquired, "What's the matter? Are you feeling unwell, or do you not wish to run?" My aunt has come," Wang Lirong replied shyly, her face flushed, her voice barely audible. "Your aunt? She came to the school?" Lin Ye asked, puzzled. "Is there an issue at home?" His voice was low, yet audible enough for the surrounding classmates to hear. Su Jing stifled a laugh nearby, while several other girls giggled as well, with all the boys having gone down. Only Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan remained. Zhang Xiaoxuan, observing the scene, displayed an expression of impatience, wondering why they were still lingering. Wang Lirong, her face burning with embarrassment, stammered, My aunt has arrived." Lin Ye was bewildered, asking, "You just mentioned your aunt, and now you're talking about something else. Which one is it?" Lin Ye scratched his head and continued, "But how am I supposed to explain this false excuse to the teacher?" Su Jing stood up, smiling as she said, "Class monitor. You go ahead. I'll talk to the teacher later. It's nothing, haha." Zhang Xiaoxuan approached, chuckling as she pulled Lin Ye along. Let us go. We'll head down first." At that moment, Lin Ye was genuinely unaware of what Aunt Flo entailed. nor did he comprehend the nature of menstrual pain that girls experienced. The society back then lacked a plethora of internet cafes, networks, and certainly did not possess the modern marvel of smartphones or software for leisurely viewing, downloading, or even learning. The dearth of knowledge granted purity to innocent hearts, while parents bestowed upon them an unblemished exterior. Thus, the students of that era were indeed innocent. That evening during dinner, Lin Ye pondered over this matter and asked Su Jing what it was all about. Su Jing merely smiled and refrained from answering, indirectly alluding to terms like bread, which only deepened Lin Ye's confusion. Wasn't bread meant for eating? Zhang Xiaoxuan, equally bewildered, pressed Su Jing about the connection between ant flow, bread, and other terms. As Su Jing turned her face away, seemingly annoyed, the two had no choice but to abandon their inquiries. A year later, Lin Ye learned from his girlfriend about ant flow, menstrual pain, and sanitary napkins, realizing he should have boldly asked his mother back then, though he mused that it might have earned him a scolding. He also came to understand why some girls donned thick jeans to school during hot weather. The very thickness of those jeans made Lin Ye feel warm just by looking at them. Chapter 16, 1/3 of a golden brick nevertheless. None of this could dampen Lin Ye's spirits at having become the class monitor. Although he had been tricked by the old man Wang, he had still acquired a title, which felt akin to donning a ceremonial robe. In truth, the authority of the class monitor was quite considerable, maintaining classroom discipline, collecting class fees, overseeing leave requests, and establishing various class regulations, among others. Penalties for tardiness, sleeping in class, and unexcused absences were all ideas concocted by Lin Ye and presented to the old man Wang. Upon glancing at them, Wang had scolded, "Are you obsessed with money?" Although he did not approve, Lin Ye remained quite content with his role as class monitor. The following days were relatively calm. Yet one matter troubled Lin Ye greatly. The old man Wang had chosen Zhang Xiaoxuan to be part of the student council. Lin Ye confronted Wang in protest, arguing that the student council sounded far more prestigious than being a mere class monitor. Wang's response was, according to ancient wisdom, "You two are my beloved disciples. One takes care of the internal matters, the other handles the external. What is wrong with that? I trust you the most, which is why I've entrusted the internal affairs to you. The world will eventually belong to you. Work hard, young ones." Ah well, the scholarly types certainly have their own ways. Returning to that afternoon, after school, Lin Ye bolted home like a wild horse that had broken free from its reins, only to find Zhao Gang seated at the table. Lin Ye was momentarily taken aback, wondering how he had come to their home. After some contemplation, he felt reassured. After all, Zhao Gang was his cousin, albeit a distant one, and a visit was not unwelcome. Furthermore, his father seemed to be speaking with an air of familiarity, as if he had a request to make. Regarding the notion that Zhao Gang is a distant relative, Lin Ye inquired with his father, who insisted that they were in no way related. Nevertheless, Lin Ye accepted Zhao Gang as his cousin, regardless of the degree of kinship. Lin Ye explained to Zhao Gang that the troubles stemmed from Zhang Xiaoxuan, and that he should directly inquire with her for further details. During the meal, despite Lin's father's assertion of no familial ties, the atmosphere was convivial. As their glasses clinked, terms of endearment such as big nephew, uncle, cousin, and younger cousin flowed freely. Lin's father expressed his wishes, and Zhao Gang assured him that he would diligently mentor the two younger cousins, as long as it did not interfere with their studies. At that moment, Lin Ye recalled a conversation between his father and Zhang's father about finding someone to properly guide the two boys, and he had not anticipated that it would be Zhao Gang himself. This arrangement was fortuitous, as it meant he would no longer have to clandestinely associate with Haozi and his gang. Lin's father's decision inadvertently altered Zhang Xiaoxuan's life trajectory. But that is a tale for another time. Zhang Xiaoxuan merely smiled faintly, remarking that perhaps her fate was meant to unfold this way. As the evening progressed, the two began to refer to each other as brothers. Lin's mother had finished her meal early and returned to the factory, prompting Lin Ye to excuse himself and retreat to his room, closing the door and attempting to sleep under his blanket. However, the noise was too disruptive for any rest, and he soon emerged to bid farewell to his father and Zhao Gang, claiming he was heading to school. "Look at my cousin, so eager to learn," Zhao Gang quipped, downing his drink. It was still early for afternoon classes when Lin Ye rode his bicycle to Haozi's home, only to discover that Haozi was napping. He playfully patted Haozi's belly, causing him to jolt awake. Upon recognizing Lin Ye, Haozi, still shaken, exclaimed, "I thought the police were coming for me. You scared me to death." Lin Ye tossed him a cigarette and lit it for him, apologizing, "Sorry about the sudden turn of events yesterday. Everything is sorted now, so there should be no issues." "Good to hear, good to hear," Haozi replied, taking a puff and contemplating. "What actually happened?" "Just as we rushed over, the police arrived." "Did they report us?" "No, They didn't report us. The ones who called the police have ties to Zhang Xiaoxuan. When you have time, let her explain. Lin Ye said, lighting his own cigarette. Housie exhaled smoke slowly and stated, Lin Ye, we are only associating with Zhang Xiaoxuan because of you. If she dares to betray us, we want to go easy on her. Lin Ye chuckled, Housie, you're overthinking it. Zhang Xiaoxuan had no intention of causing trouble. She was just as bewildered by the situation. It was all rather unexpected. We should have her host a gathering. Housie nodded in agreement. That sounds best. In truth, Zhang Xiaoxuan was eager to clarify the matter, especially since it was her so-called girlfriend who had contacted the authorities, implicating her. During lunch, Lin Ye broached the topic with Zhang Xiaoxuan, who appeared equally perplexed. She glanced at Su Jing, who was sipping a drink, and then at Lin Ye, who was voraciously devouring his meal, as if all her sighs were hidden within the food. Su Jing turned to Zhang Xiaoxuan, her crimson lips pulling away from the straw, and asked, what's wrong? Is it wrong to call the police? Zhang Xiaoxuan was momentarily taken aback, while Lin Ye chuckled. Indeed, how could it be otherwise? However, your boyfriend will certainly be footing the bill for this unexpected delight. Su Jing, sipping her drink, furrowed her brow in confusion. Zhang Xiaoxuan, however, remained unfazed, conveying that matters solvable by money are hardly matters at all. Lin Ye sighed, remarking, why didn't you say that when others were robbing you? To which Zhang Xiaoxuan defiantly replied, that's different. It's a matter of pride. After school that evening, Lin Ye and Zhang Xiaoxuan gathered at Hausie's house. Zhao Gang had yet to arrive, presumably still recovering from the alcohol he consumed at lunch. Zhang Xiaoxuan, in a spirited manner, volunteered to fetch a case of beer to make amends. The hefty fellow grumbled about wanting skewers, claiming to be traumatized, while Hausie jested. Why don't you just get yourself pregnant? Zhang Xiaoxuan acquiesced, stating that since it was an apology, they could dictate the terms. Thus, the five of them, buoyantly pedaling their bicycles with the case of beer in tow, set off. As summer approached, the bustling streets were alive with foot traffic. Although Yucheng was a small city, its barbecue industry thrived just as swiftly as in larger metropolitan areas. When boredom struck, people sought diversions, leading to hunger, and inevitably, thoughts of skewers, particularly after 9 p.m. On Huali Street, a thoroughfare dedicated to barbecue delicacies, around 6 p.m., various vendors prepared their stalls. Customers frequently paused at different stands, deliberating on which culinary offerings might be most delectable. The vendors, employing every tactic, called out to attract patrons, their voices a continuous chorus. Lin Ye and his friends settled at a familiar food stall, where the hefty fellow volunteered to place the order. Before long, skewers and appetizers arrived simultaneously. During the meal, Hausie inquired about the incident that had attracted the police's attention. Zhang Xiaoxuan recounted the ordeal with a pained expression, concluding, if it weren't for you teaching me how to flirt that night, I wouldn't have found myself in this predicament. Hausie responded, all right, brother, my mistake. This one's on me. You can let me take the legendary Su Jing, who is as serene as a maiden. Li Qi laughed heartily. Let it go, Hausie. I know you didn't bring any money. I have some, just let me treat. The hefty fellow interjected quickly, don't. Brother, I don't have much either. But I can pitch in. How about we share? Laughter erupted, and Lin Ye stifled a chuckle as he observed Zhang Xiaoxian's dark expression, curious about her thoughts. Hausie, with a mischievous grin, also watched Zhang Xiaoxian in silence until suddenly, fueled by the alcohol, she slammed her hand on the table and exclaimed, Boss, bring me 20 more skewers. Despite the light-hearted banter directed at Zhang Xiaoxian, none of it was taken seriously, and she didn't either. Ultimately, it was Zhang Xiaoxian who paid for the meal, as her living expenses were double those of Lin Ye, and she had ample disposable income. In future gatherings, she often picked up the tab, insisting that the joy of brotherhood was what truly mattered, regardless of who paid. Thus, since Lin Ye introduced Zhang Xiaoxian to this circle, she had flourished far beyond him, cultivating a wide network of friendships. Lin Ye once suspected that Zhang Xiaoxian had bribed their homeroom teacher, Old Wang, to join the student council, at least with 2 packs of Hilton cigarettes. When Lin Ye inquired about Zhang Xiaoxian, he was astonished. How did you know? Lin Ye sniffed the air and replied, I am quite familiar with that scent, and it has lingered for the past few days. Zhang Xiaoxian smiled mysteriously and said, I told my dad that I joined the student council and needed to give gifts. He was overjoyed to hear that his son had become an official and promptly handed me 2 packs of Hilton. I kept one for myself and gifted one to Old Wang. He. Upon hearing this, Lin Ye extended his hand and said, Hey, that's quite generous. Hurry and get me 2 boxes so I don't have to buy them. Zhang Xiaoxian playfully swatted Lin Ye's palm, saying, Dream on. That pack is for Gang Go. You know he wasn't there that day when we went drinking. Lin Ye turned to Su Jing and remarked, "Your husband is quite stingy. Why don't you say something to him?" Su Jing smiled sweetly, linking her arm with Zhang Xiaoxuan's, replied, "Of course, we are practical people. How can we be as extravagant as you, a single man?" Lin Ye was taken aback, thinking, is this what it means to be practical? To toss away a cigarette just like that? Zhang Xiaoxuan laughed heartily, pulling Su Jing along as they ran ahead, calling out, "Single man, single man." During that time, boys and girls were quite innocent. Unlike today, it seemed that if you had money, you had fate. But what is fate? It is merely money transformed. Lin Ye was puzzled as to why a girl like Su Jing, so naive, would be interested in Zhang Xiaoxuan. Perhaps it was because Zhang Xiaoxuan was a good boy, yet he didn't quite seem like one. He was tall, his face exuded a rebellious charm, with his hands in his pockets and an audacious demeanor. He was not the same as before, at least before he met Zhao Gang and Haozi. He had been a studious lad, quietly attending school and returning home after class. Now, he bore the marks of mischief on his face, making Lin Ye acutely aware of the truth that bad boys are loved by girls, further solidifying the realization that he too should seek a girlfriend. Su Jing, however, wanted to introduce Lin Ye to his senior sister, saying she was a lovely and beautiful girl, albeit a year older and a boarding student, sharing a dorm with Su Jing. Upon calculating her age, Lin Ye felt a slight aversion to dating older girls and remarked, "Such matters depend on fate. If the timing isn't right, meeting might lead to unpleasantness, which would be counterproductive." Zhang Xiaoxuan, understanding Lin Ye's sentiments, chuckled and said, "A girl 3 years older brings fortune. Age is trivial in the face of love. Look, I'm 1 year older than Su Jing, and she doesn't mind." Lin Ye retorted angrily, "You've got to be kidding. It's not the same."